This is the March 23rd, 2026 Town of Concord Select Board meeting. Wendy?
Yes, all members are present and accounted for.
Great. We'll start with public comments as we usually do. Please approach and use a microphone. Start with your name. And if you're on Zoom and you would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature. Public comments are for 3 minutes for items that are not otherwise noticed on the agenda.
Hi, Tanya
Tanya.
Galis. Thank you. Tanya Galis, 62 Prescott Road. This is a follow-up to your discussion on the open meeting law complaints. There is a document here that I can email to you all later. This was shared with me by our town clerk a few years ago. It explains the background of how it became, how to circulate a document with a member's opinion ahead of a meeting, and about the posting requirements and, what court ruled what, etc. I'll just leave this copy here, but I'll email it to each of you. As for your decision to make an addendum to the minutes of the February 25th meeting, I'm really not sure that the Attorney General would approve of amending or altering minutes in a way that does not include things that were discussed at that public meeting. I understand that sometimes they ordered for minutes to be created for any deliberation that happened to take place outside of a public meeting, but to alter the minutes of the same meeting may not be allowed. It also there is a difference between people being present as you discuss these documents, and also whether all of you saw them or not ahead of the meeting, even though a quorum might have. So the practical point is that even if you do go ahead and do that it should not be taken as a substitute for actually perhaps revisiting a discussion with the new documents being made available to all of you and to the public. And I wrote a letter, as you know, and I explained a lot of my reasoning in that. I'm not going to just be repetitive here, but I think it would be appropriate remedy to revisit the discussion fully, not just to clarify why you voted a certain way. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a little on the edge. That is an item that's on our agenda tonight to discuss the draft of that addendum.
Yeah.
But thanks for your comment anyway.
It was more about the decision, not...
I understand. Okay. Is there anybody online that has a comment? I see a couple of people have entered the room. Is there anybody? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just note that on the consent agenda, we have some minutes from February 25th. And Paul, I see that you have given us some edits to the minutes. Do you want me to read out loud your edits? So we're all aware of them?
It's just one edit, bottom of page 8.
Yeah,
You can read it.
Yep, okay. So Paul just had a brief recommendation, so the public is aware. The statement the current statement is, Chair Howell, Mr. Bohm, and Ms. Hartman discuss the advantages that existing zoning can have in terms of the value and future use of parcels. The recommended change is as follows. Chair Howell, Mr. Bohm, and Ms. Hartman discuss the advantages that zoning considerations can have in terms of optimizing the value and future use of parcels.
Yeah, and the difference was existing zoning wasn't the point. It's sort of
Right.
zoning
Optimizing,
considerations
yeah.
in the future.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
That makes sense.
okay. All right, well, with that, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I need to pull one item off the consent
Okay,
agenda.
sorry, Paul.
The nomination of Andrew Boardman. I think pull that off. For the reason I'm going to have to recuse myself from that vote. He is my son-in-law.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we'll have a separate vote on that. Oh, well, actually, it's in the, yeah, we'll have to have a separate vote.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let me try again. I'm going to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the minor edit to the January 25th minutes as reviewed, and to remove the select board nomination for Andrew Boardman.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let me make a separate nomination for, a motion for the nomination of Andrew Boardman of 110 Hillcrest Road to the Community Preservation Committee for a term beginning June 1st, 2026 and expiring May 31st, 2029.
Second.
Okay.
Sorry, just for discussion, who?
This is Andrew Boardman.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Andrew was the appointee from the planning committee, but he's rolling off the planning committee, so now he's the select board. I'm nominating him as the select.
So he
board.
was already on, yeah, that's what, he was already on?
As the liaison, the liaison.
Representative.
Planning board
representative from the
nominee, yeah.
planning committee.
Okay. Yeah, so this is that, does that mean it's like his second term?
No, he was,
First
No.
term as the select board appointee.
As a select board
Yeah.
appointee?
Right.
And,
Okay, so he was appointed
yeah, and he's
for,
got-
or he was a representative from the planning board, but he was in a voting.
Right, he was,
So
but
he's-
this one is effective June 1st. He will not be on the planning board as of June 1st,
That's right.
right? So,
Okay, got it. So he's moving off of the planning board,
Right.
right,
moving on to the Community Preservation Committee, and then the planning board would nominate somebody new.
right,
That's right.
correct.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
any further questions? Did I hear a second? Yes, okay.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And Paul, are you abstaining from the vote?
He
Yes, yep, just,
Recusing myself.
Recusing himself.
okay,
Okay.
all right. So we are ready to move on to select board appointments. I'm going to make the following motion to approve the appointment of Paul Keene of 572 Main Street as an associate member of the Historic District Commission as the Concord Free Public Library nominee to complete an unexpired term ending January 1, 2028, and reappointment of Ravi Fayea of 169 Plainfield Road to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire on May 31st, 2029, and Allison Green of 304 Old Marlborough Road to the trustees of town donations, expiring on May 31st, 2028, and Susan Myers of 66 MacArthur Road to fill an unexpired term on the planning board with a term date of May 31st, 2027.
Second?
Questions? All those in favor? of the
Aye.
question?
Oh,
Yeah, and the first one, what was the first one again? That was
it was an
HTC.
appointment of Paul Keene, and it was appointed by the Concord Free Public Library to
An
the Historic
associate.
District Commission
Associate member.
as an associate.
So I think that's one of those things where the library committee nominates. and
nomination.
We
We
have
have
to,
to approve that?
Well, it's still a select board appointment.
It is,
Required,
even though
yep.
they.
They make the nomination and we make the appointment,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
okay.
Right.
We got a few of those,
Good.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
okay,
right.
so, I mean, so when you said, do we have to, what you were really asking is that our role?
Is that our role?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Are we
okay.
required to? Yes.
yes.
I mean,
Yes.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, great. I believe we don't have any town manager appointments tonight.
Nope, nope, we do not.
And Megan, town manager's report?
Megan Zamudo, Deputy Town Manager. I have a number of things to cover today, a few events, but a lot of this information is in our Concord Currents newsletter, so that went out about an hour ago. If folks aren't subscribed, it's a great opportunity to learn about things going on in the town. So one is a community kickoff meeting for our Suasco Climate Collaborative. This is an effort that I am very involved in. The town of Concord is the lead recipient of a grant through the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness, MVP. And we are leading a watershed initiative to work with a number of communities in the watershed and kind of understand some of the climate impacts. And then so this is an exciting community forum. We've done a lot of kind of smaller stakeholder interviews and conversations, but we're hoping to get a good turnout as we are the lead community. The other community forums will be in other communities. So this one's in Concord, if people can make it, on the 25th at Harvey Wheeler at 7 p.m. I wanted to also mention we have there is a Nuclear Metals Inc. Superfund site meeting on Thursday, April 2nd. That will be at the townhouse. And it's being held at the townhouse, but it's being hosted by the Environmental Protection Agency. And it's a public update regarding the Nuclear Metals Superfund site. The session will provide a comprehensive overview of the site's history and the specific cleanup plans that are currently in motion. So that will be an event that, if people are interested in learning more about that.
So Megan, this is more about the technical aspects of the cleanup, not future use.
That's right.
Right, good, as long as people know that.
Yes. I wanted to mention that Lieutenant Michael Bordenka was recently promoted from sergeant on March 16th, so congratulations. Also, we're having a community cleanup April 4th through April 12th. This is an annual event where folks can join their neighbors in a community-wide spring cleanup. The Division of Natural Resources will supply yellow bags for miscellaneous litter and clear bags for recyclables, bottles and cans only, no paper. This is a great way for individuals, families, neighborhood groups, clubs, and organizations to get in touch with the Division of Natural Resources and contribute to the cleanup after the snow has all pretty much melted. We wanted to mention that we have in our health department, we have a Concord community clinician. And this is a licensed therapist that provides short-term mental health support to Concord residents through a partnership between the Concord Health Division and Elliott Community Health Services. This is not super new. I think it's been less than a year, but it's a really excellent resource. They provide short-term confidential support with a licensed therapist. Care is available regardless of insurance status, and they can really help support navigating next steps, connecting to additional services if needed. So if people are, long wait lists right now with a lot of providers, this is a really excellent opportunity for people. We did have a new podcast come out on Friday for Civic Concord titled Women in Concord. It's Women's History Month, so we had a tour guide on to talk about some of the historic women from Concord and their contributions. And we are going to be working on, or starting in progress right now, to do a town meeting series. So I'm trying to get sense of, it's a tight timeline between the hearings and town meeting. But I recorded one today on a parking article with Andrew Boardman, and he's going to be presenting that article. So we're hoping to have kind of shorter conversations about some of the articles that will be coming before the town at town meeting. I got a couple questions about an event coming up at the end of the month, so I wanted to provide an update. There's an event called No Kings, Stand Up and Stand Together on March 28th. And that event is going to be held from 2 to 4, and right now it's planned to be at the Alcott School. This event has come before the town through our use of town property permit, and I think we probably talk about that from time to time, but every other week, a group of several staff members get together to look through the applications that come before the town for, things like parades and all different events. And we coordinate together. So this one is being planned at the Alcott School. Anticipated crowd size is between 1,500 and 3,000 people. One thing to note is the police presence. We are going to have a number of staff available to make sure that everyone is safe during that event. There will be police details that will be the responsibility of the organizer, but we'll also have our on-shift staff, along with a number of resources from the Northeast Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council, also we call it NEMLEC. And so those regional resources are really critical, and they're part of our membership, so they're not at an additional cost. And they'll provide officers using bicycles, motorcycles, and we'll also have access to their incident management assistance team. So thanks to the police department for calling in those resources, since there's going to be events like this across the area. And they put this request in early, so we'll have additional support that day. But at this time, the permit has not yet been issued. We're still waiting on insurance, but we expect that to come in shortly.
So Megan, the organizers are paying for the police
Detail.
detail?
Yep.
And is there, a standard charge for that? Does it depend on the
It's a-
event, or?
It depends on how many officers will be coming out. So our department can do an estimate, but it kind of depends on who fills the detail, like what rank they're at. And so then we give an estimate, but then we send the invoice.
Is the estimate based on the security needs, the type of event, or, I mean, how is that?
It's the hours of
Right.
the officers.
Yeah,
So
but how do you figure out how many, who figures, the police department figures that out? But
it's a conversation between the event organizers and the police department to think about, okay, what level of support are you going to need? This event, I failed to mention, it will be at the school parking lot, not within the school. But it also does include a march or a walk in the area. So that will be mostly on the sidewalk, but the police support will be accompanying those walking. So it's kind of, depends on the plan of the event, how many officers would be required. So that's kind of discussed.
Have we had political rallies at our schools historically?
I don't have I can't think of one that has been permitted recently. A lot of times, events like this are, kind of in Monument Square or other locations. We don't permit Monument Square as a location through our process, but I can certainly look into that.
Yeah, no, it just
Yeah.
seems like an interesting precedent that we're
People ask me why it
having
wasn't.
political rallies at our schools.
Yeah, no, I just, and people ask me why it wasn't at Emerson, and I'm like, I don't really know.
I can
Somebody
speak
had to,
that.
yeah, can you speak
it
to
was-
that? That'd be great, yeah.
It was considered to be at Emerson Field, and we weren't able to permit it at that location because of the time of year and the impact to the fields. If you remember, there was some proposed events for the 250th that we were looking at for that space, but having, that many people on the fields when we have kind of commitments in the spring for different sporting events, it wasn't a possible location.
So what it comes down to is you need pavement
We're in perfect service.
for March 30th. And in general, the applications for use of town property are essentially reviewed on a first-come, first-served basis with the focus being on the logistics of the activity and not actually the content of the event.
Oh, yeah, of course, yes.
That's
We, the purpose of the event, the permit application is free. It's really to get, police, fire, public works, public health, is there going to be food at this event? This event, no. But, that's the kind of questions that we ask. And we try to understand what resources are requested. And then we, make sure that if we can accommodate that or not. It's always an effort to, see what we can do with what we have.
Great.
Thank you.
Tracy's got her hand up.
I'm going to recognize Tracy Morano, the chair of the school committee and member of the Concord Public School Committee.
Can't hear you.
Unmute, Tracy.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep.
I think so. So school committee holds a facility policy, so there's also been an application for approval to the public school system. So there's a fee associated with it and insurance is required, so we're in that process too. But it seems as though the town and the schools are working together on this and police are heavily involved in it. So there's also Mass General Law that we can't discriminate against anyone who wants to use our facilities unless they're discriminating against people. So we do have a policy for that, so we're aware of it. Thanks.
Thanks for the
Thanks.
extra information. Okay.
Great.
Anything
That
else?
concludes my report. Thank you.
Any other questions for the deputy town manager?
The Soasco date, again, when was that?
It is Wednesday, the 25th.
In case we didn't say it out loud, the event we were just talking about is on a Saturday in the afternoon. So not during school hours or even close to school hours.
So, Megan, just another question, just tying it back to our consent agenda. So an amazing gift from Middlesex School of $50,000 to be used for support of fire, police, and emergency services. Have we gotten those kinds of gifts before from them? And how do we, does that change the budget? Do we just use it for, is there a precedent in how we use that, or?
That's a good question. We have gotten a gift, I think, in this amount in previous years, but I don't know exactly how, how it impacts the budget, if we are kind of expecting it and what it goes to, and I'm happy to follow up with more details.
Yeah, I guess more than anything, just making sure we also
Thank
celebrate
them.
it.
Actually, that's a good call out, Cameron,
And
because
just call it out
usually.
and thank Middlesex School.
Yes, yeah, no, great.
Yeah,
So,
thank you for mentioning that. Okay, I'm going to move on to the chair's report. Going to take a sip. I have 3 things that I wanted to mention. In terms of preparation for town meeting, we have been invited to participate in the First Friday event that the league is running on Friday morning, April 3rd, and discuss some of the articles, including Article 12, which is our capital plan. So that's another opportunity for people to hear more about the articles if they haven't had a chance to watch the hearings, and it's a little bit more focused on those that are, let's say, higher interest than sort of the routine things. I received a communication that I forwarded on to all of you this afternoon from, on behalf of the Robbins House. They are looking for support to send a letter to our elected representatives, specifically Senators Warren and Markey, on behalf of the Robbins House requests for $300,000 directed towards the funding of 2 electric passenger vans for a heritage transportation program that they're developing there. And so they're on a fairly short timeline, which is why I'm raising it here. Submissions need to be made by April 3rd. And so I don't know whether all of you had a chance to actually look at the text of the letter, but essentially it's applying for funding from a federal program for transportation initiatives responsive to heritage programs. And so I would like to ask if I have a consensus to sign a letter in support of this on behalf of the.
I have several
Select
questions
board.
about this
Okay.
letter, and it's not on our agenda, so how can we
Yeah.
vote to approve something that's not on our agenda?
I didn't ask for a vote,
You want
but
a
I
consensus?
wanted to understand. And again, I wouldn't be raising it if it weren't for the fact that it did come in and we won't meet again before this, which is, as I understand it, something that everybody should be aware of our deadlines, but I wanted to see
I
whether.
haven't even seen it, so.
Okay,
Well, there's a letter, but I'd be interested in learning more about what they're applying, like the program that they're offering. It says, the letter says 2 EVs, but I'd like to learn more about what they're going to be doing. But
Yeah. me
yeah,
too.
the idea, and I do have a separate email from Jen Turner, which was sent to recipients that I can't see. So I did not know whether anybody else on the board had seen this letter, and I would be happy to forward it on. But it describes, why they are doing this. Essentially, what they're looking to do is create a van program that would be self-sustaining and make it available to partner organizations in their own programming at a reasonable cost that would allow for tours of Concord's heritage sites. Most people are arriving who don't bring their own car to Concord arrive at the train station, and obviously there are distances involved. So they're looking to have access to some vehicles that could be then part of a heritage tour.
Would there be any any financial liability on the town for this?
My understanding is these.
Aren't we
these
sort of
are
getting
vehicles-
into a debate of a thing
We
that's
are.
not on our
Yeah,
agenda?
Okay.
I'm not
You're right.
comfortable, it's
So-
not on our agenda, I mean.
Okay,
Yeah, me too.
late breaking. So I will forward the information that I have about this, and we will, take up whether we can do some retroactive support for this at a meeting after the deadline support, and I'll make that inquiry on behalf of the board, and we can discuss it at another meeting. The last thing I had,
When you say retroactive,
in other words, we won't meet before the deadline for their application.
I understand.
So I will make some inquiries to make sure, to find out whether if we were to discuss this in the future and decide to support it, it would be at all useful for us to send something in after their deadline.
Got it.
Okay. And the last thing I wanted to call your attention to is we're going to have a couple of matters to discuss at the April 6th meeting that we'll call for an executive session around some of the negotiations around MCI and a potential real estate matter. So I wanted to just poll the board on, in terms of a preference for that executive session. Would the preference be to meet at 5 p.m. like we sometimes do? We could do that with the regular session at 6. Another option might be to have the executive session at 6 and delay the start of our regular session. And then the third option I could think of was that we just decide to do the executive session at the end of regular business. And I wondered whether anybody had a strong preference one way or the other.
I think earlier is better.
Yeah, 5 is
Yeah.
fine.
I'm okay at 5 on
Five's
the 6th.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just looking at my calendar. I'm okay.
okay,
I wanna do it.
yeah.
I'm assuming you're thinking we need an hour?
Yeah, I think that we probably wouldn't go over that for the matters that I'm aware of.
Good.
I think that I hate to jinx the meeting by saying how long I think its agenda is. It may be it's probably going to be a fairly busy agenda on April 6th. Okay, great.
Mark, one other thing, you mentioned the league is, on April 3rd is going to be, has invited some to talk about the articles.
Yeah.
There's also another session the following week on April
I think
10th.
there's going to be
where,
several.
they're at least discussing the
Okay.
school
Great.
articles,
Okay.
and 25
Right.
and 26. They've invited Eve
Ah, okay.
Eisenberg,
Good,
so it'll be
Good
two
to know.
Fridays in a row.
great.
All right. All right, I think we're ready for
Food trucks?
Patriots Day events. And Mimi, there she is.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I'm Mimi Graney. I'm the Economic Vitality Manager for the town. Beth Williams would have liked to have been here, but she's out this evening. So I'm going to give you a little context for this year's Patriots Day as we go back into normal time. And I have a specific request around food trucks. So the 2026 celebrations will closely align with pre-2025 events, while also continuing with some new concepts like the block party. From April 17th to 20th will be a string of events, including the Patriots Vigil on the 17th, the Dawn Salute on the 19th, and the parade and the block party on Monday, the 20th. The National Park Service in 2025 received many additional human resources to support the celebration here. So for 2026, the Minuteman National Park is going to be supporting other national parks that are doing their commemorations. So we're anticipating some changes in staffing. The National Park Service has many witness houses that'll be open from the 17th to the 20th, and a number of smaller programs to spread out the celebrations without overburdening their staff. Lexington will be hosting their parade on Saturday, which will allow a lot of the participants in that parade to also take part in Concord without sort of a juggling to get to the two of them. This year for the block party, we will basically, the road closures are going to be for the parade mimicking the pre-2025, so much smaller. The road closures kicking in shortly after 8 o'clock, and then the main roads reopening right after the parade passes. For the block party, that'll be concentrated on Main Street and Walden Street. Main Street from Monument Square to Keyes Road, and then Walden as far as Hubbard Street. Potentially, if the crowds are much smaller, we might close that in even a little smaller, but that's our block party area. And the road closures will only be during the day. The Kais Road parking lot will remain open. And the road closures will only just be while the parade's in motion. And this will allow visitors and residents to shop, to park, to eat, to celebrate, et cetera. So for the block party, for that, we'll be having, Wright Tavern, as you know, is going to be having their beer garden again this year. We'll have a stage on just off of Main Street, so it'll be just set off the road near the war memorials on that grassy area, not impacting the war memorials, but just sort of facing towards Wright Tavern. On Main Street, we'll have a number of different kind of community vendors. For example, Art for All will be doing block printing. The Thoreau Society will be doing some activities. Some of the local businesses are going to be doing engagement things, some outreach to different groups. And then a number of satellite locations, including the Concord Museum having their usual open house and encampment there. At 51 Walden, they're going to be doing the Concord Traveling Players, which are basically folks that have aged out of their theater program. Apparently, I think the youngest person is in their mid-60s, and the oldest person is 97. So they'll be performing a show that they've taken often on the road, and it's their first time actually performing it in Concord. And the band will be playing in their lobby. On our main stage, the Concord Women's Chorus is going to be singing a original Concord hymn or tune that the crowd will be and welcome to join in. There'll be a live band and a DJ. And then behind, food trucks were a big hit last year. And so behind Vanderhoof parking lot, which is a kind of smaller town lot that's a little harder to access anyway, we'll be putting the food trucks there so that will leave the Walden lot more accessible. So before I have a proposal for your approval. So as you probably know, if more than 2 food trucks are gathered, they shall come before the select board. So we're proposing a total of 6. 3 would be in Concord Center, again, behind Vanderhoof's, and that would be the Whoopie Wagon, Tandoor Curry, and Bird's Nest Italian Food. And those would be active roughly between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. It's possible that some of those, at least one of those trucks would be coming after the parade passes and scooting in once the roads are reopened. And then over at the Concord Museum, they're proposing 3 trucks that would be active from 10 until 4 because they're not impacted by the road closures and their event goes a little later. And over there would be the Twisted Pickle, Augusta's Chicken on the Road, and Juniper Farms Ice Cream.
Great.
Sorry, and Mimi,
Questions?
thank you for that. It's a lot. So appreciate you covering all that. I'm sorry if I missed it. Is 6 how many we've had in the past?
No, last year for the 250th was the first time they'd had food trucks as part of the, it was the first time we did the block party, which included food trucks.
And how did we, I'm just, have we done the logistics of having 6 and the traffic or whatever and just like before, or is it something we have to think about?
So the block party was like the big thing that people really wanted us to replicate. And that's part of why we're bringing it back again this year.
And I think it's going to be helpful to have the food trucks down in the parking lot.
Me too.
So, I mean, last time it was at Walden, right, and it took everything, but,
Right.
I mean, I think that's a great location, and then you've got the lawn right there, too,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, last year there were 3.
Great.
There was also some over on Stowe Street,
Right.
which didn't do as well.
Yeah.
So this way, it's sort of, they're consolidated in a less demanding, our visitor demanding lot.
Yeah.
And I think, if I remember correctly, the museum had 2 trucks, which were really high demand, so they're expanding it a little bit with
Okay.
3.
That's good.
So we're learning.
Right.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
evolving.
very good.
I think it's great.
Any further questions?
No. Would you like a motion?
Yes, I would.
Okay, I make a motion to approve up to 6 food trucks for the Patriots' Day commemoration on Monday, April 20th, to be located at Concord Center from 9 to 3 and Concord Museum from 10 to 4 p.m.
Second?
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
All right,
Aye.
look forward
Thank
to
you.
it.
Thank
It'll be
you.
fun. Thanks, Mimi.
It'd be great.
Great.
Okay. We're up to the consent calendar. And I'm going to admit to some technology problems here, so I'm having trouble switching over to look at that. Welcome, Carmen.
Good evening, Select Board. Carmen Reese, Town Moderator. You have the draft. The first thing I want to point out is there's a typo. Article 21 is actually Article 28. The number's wrong. But it is in fact Select Board to accept easements, but that's reflected on the draft calendar as 21, and it's actually 28. So,
Oh, good.
Yeah.
This is a shorter, slightly, consent calendar than what we've had in some years. I think there are, just happens that there are more things that people want to talk about this year. For example, I think we have a total of 5 zoning articles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, actually 7 zoning articles, and there are only 2 of them that appear to be suitable for the consent calendar, and the rest of them are proposals that the citizenry wishes to discuss. So, as I think you know, I pulled this list together on the basis of part of it is the long history of what we have done at town meetings. So, for example, Article 3 meeting procedure, I think it's at least 20 years that article has been on the consent calendar. So some of that is what is clearly a routine matter for town meeting, and we already know what everybody thinks. There isn't a real need to have a conversation about it. And the others are either housekeeping, or it's very clear that they're not controversial, they're not a big change, or they may be things that, for example, where the typo is, Select Board to accept easements. This will be the 3rd year that we have that article, and it has not engendered discussion. It was on the consent calendar last year, and no one was interested in pulling it off for discussion. So all of the articles that are proposed for this consent calendar have been recommended for affirmative action by town meeting, by the Select Board, and also where the Finance Committee has taken a vote, also by the Finance Committee, and the Zoning Board, the Planning Board as well on the zoning articles.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I think Article 24, PFAS settlement, while it's pretty kind of routine and not controversial, I think there's a lot of public interest in PFAS issues and the fact that we had a big bonding article a few years ago, and this is litigation settlement money, and there'll be other litigation settlement money. I think for public interest and education about where this money is coming from, it might be worthwhile presenting it and discussing it. I think it's probably be a high-interest article, not because it's controversial, but because it's an important issue on water resources. So I'm suggesting that perhaps we discuss that, present it.
Well, I have a related question to that, and I know, I think last year, the last few years, we've pretty much expanded the consent calendar, knowing all the time that it takes 10 votes to pull something off, right? Because we wanted to, you know, with the town meeting study committee, we wanted to kind of move things along a little bit more quickly. So we put more things on the consent, and again, it can always be taken off. So I think I kind of liked that direction we were going in as far as putting things on. And so I have questions to add more things to it as opposed to pull things off.
Can we discuss the 24 first?
Well, yeah, but it's in line with that.
I
I'm
know.
saying I want to keep things on and ask people to pull them off.
Okay.
So that's kind of what
It's a tug of war here.
I'm going at it a different way.
So as it relates to the PFAS settlement, I'm in line with Mary. I'd rather leave it on the consent and have people ask to take it off if they think it's important. And
That's
partly
fine.
because of the town meeting
I just think
committee.
it's
It is an important issue, I understand.
It's important. I think it's new. It's interesting. It's
Well-
the litigation support. It's the first of several, I think, and PFAS is general interest all over town. So this is good news for us.
What's also interesting, I don't know what's in the briefing book about it. So I wonder if a lot of the content is already there, but I don't know what's in
Yeah,
the
I mean, I don't think
book.
there's anything, I mean, what would somebody want to debate?
My recollection of the
More educational.
presentation at the hearing was it was more or less a transfer of like
just-
$68,000.
Right. This is
a transfer of money.
Yeah.
Small, small.
Yeah.
It's not controversial, it's just interesting, it's
Yeah.
an interesting issue, interesting where the money's coming from. It's- So,
Yeah,
it's
my-
it's fine if we want to keep it on, but I'm just saying there might
I'd be
be.
in favor of keeping it on.
I think that, given that there wasn't a lot of specifics about how the money is going to get used, rather just where it was going to get parked, I think it is an important issue too. And I have little doubt that there's going to be a town meeting sometime in the near future where we're going to
Yes.
really engage with the PFAS issue in general. It seems like it's a little bit isolated this year to me. Mary, what were your suggestions for additional
I
ads?
had two suggestions. One was Article 27, the amendment to the solicitation bylaw.
That's a whole new bylaw, though, right?
Well, no, it's an amendment.
It's a
Well, no, but it's a rewrite. It's a
replacement of the
complete
entire-
rewrite, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't, it's not a major rewrite, it's more of a cleaning up, I thought.
Well, it was a replace. It was a full replacement.
Did we
But it
get-
doesn't matter. I guess so what you'd
I'm
like
with
to.
you, Mayor, if there's something we can put on the consent agenda.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, again, if people want to
Yeah.
discuss it, it's easy to take it off. It's, the very first thing we do, everybody's fresh. And also, I'd like to consider putting number 41 on the consent agenda, that's the Stormwater Enterprise Fund.
So our practice has been for the last several years to rotate which one of the enterprise funds does not go on the consent calendar. All the rest of them are on the consent calendar. And the Stormwater Enterprise Fund, I think, is the one that has engendered more curiosity recently, and it's the newest.
Yeah, it's
Isn't the
it's brand
BD
new.
Center, isn't the BD Center not on the consent agenda?
That's a revolving,
Oh, it's not, is it? Or is- I
it's
thought
not an
enter-
actual
It
enterprise.
says enterprise fund.
It is an enterprise
Yeah,
fund.
it's not the same kind of enterprise, though.
But, on the
Well, but it's not
stormwater,
on the
the stormwater, it's new.
No, this is the third year we've talked about it. It's,
Well, It's
we've
the second year it's been budgeted, though, right?
It's, it is, but the
Right.
budget hasn't changed.
It's
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 true,
also
yeah.
the first time that people have actually seen
Seen
the
bills.
Stormwater
Right.
Enterprise Fund
Yeah.
fees on their
Yeah,
bills.
right.
So if there's a consensus of the board that you think there's a different enterprise fund that is more compelling for a full discussion at town meeting this year, I'm all ears. But
think
this
it's the
one was
BD Center.
my sense.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
I think it's the BD
Center should be on? Well, the BD Center's already not on the consent.
That's what
Right.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're saying we usually pull one off.
Yeah,
So this year we've pulled off two,
okay.
which is the stormwater and the BD. And I think the BD Center is what we should be talking about. But again, it's just what I'm thinking. It's up to the town meeting.
I'd be inclined to put the BD Center on the consent calendar.
Oh, wow,
I would too, actually.
really?
The discussion we had was a lot of like the recreation fund, and actually the real issue was them pulling funds from their not their endowment fund, but
Retained
their
earnings,
retained earnings, yeah.
Yeah,
Which is an
yeah.
issue that
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
maybe,
I'm fine with putting one of them on. Consent.
I think there is some value to keeping the stormwater in the regular order, because I think that there's still a relatively poor understanding of how the creation of that fund actually helps the town by broadening the base of ratepayers that are helping to maintain our culverts and stormwater system, creating the fee.
Yeah, that's a good argument for it, right?
Yeah, I think that would be the reason I would.
I will say that the omission of the Beating Center is actually an oversight. I had intended
So
for
we're
it to
putting-
be on the consent calendar.
Oh,
So maybe we should,
and I think if we're concerned about that issue with the BD Center, we should have more follow-up on that, just as a select
yeah,
board.
and the finance committee did last Thursday. I think
Yeah.
most of us were in the room when that happened.
Right.
Yeah, I'm fine putting that on.
On the
Okay,
consent?
Yeah,
Okay, so we're putting the Beatty Center on the consent.
yeah.
yeah, and we're leaving the stormwater enterprise off of it.
And I'm not sure that I have an appreciation of the board's consensus on Article 24, which is the PFAS settlement money, or on the solicitation bylaw, which is, I can't remember what number, but
27.
27, thank you.
I'd vote for putting them both on the consent agenda.
I do too.
I think we're.
I would put
suggested
27 on and pull 24 off.
Wendy?
I'm okay putting 27 on the agenda, on the consent. I know it's, I just said it's a whole rewrite,
What
but,
about-
you know, it was
what
not
about 24?
controversial, it
What
was
about
very well
24?
presented. 24?
Are you okay leaving that one on?
I'm okay leaving it on, I already said that.
I would put both of them on the consent agenda
too.
as well.
Yeah.
So,
I think we have a 5-0 and a 4-1 to
yeah,
put them on.
It's an informal vote, wasn't
It was-
Very, very informal, a consensus. We're
Yeah.
talking
it? Right,
consensus.
right.
So the Beatty Center is
It's added.
off, and, okay.
So we're going to add both,
At B
We're adding
Center.
sorry,
40
not stormwater, we're going to add 48 and 27.
Right. 27. Good.
Could I
Okay.
ask about something like Article 8, which is it says retroactive salary. I mean, again, to me, it's something that's already
Yes,
it's
it
done.
is.
To me, it's moving
Yeah,
money
it
from,
was free cash.
On the other hand, I've never seen this issue before, and this is my 16th year of holding public office, and I haven't seen this issue
Okay.
before.
That's fine.
And that's the reason I
Oh, that's
left it
fine.
on for a
That's
full
fine.
discussion.
isn't that one that also has a motion that's contingent on the
Yes, it does.
Article 7? So if Article 7 were not to pass for some reason, the motion under Article 8 is
It would have to
different.
be changed.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay. so
It
they
does
have to
make
stay
it
on
hard to
that
put it
way.
on the
Yeah.
consent calendar.
Okay,
Great.
that's fine.
I know we're having
Yep.
the official motions meeting is tomorrow, but that's one
That
that's
works.
stuck in my head. Okay. Any other comments about the consent?
I have a separate question, which is, have you given any thought to special interest articles for town meeting?
No.
Or is that, okay.
No. No, I mean, we have a number of things that are of interest
Yeah, yeah.
to the community, but there wasn't anything that jumped out to me as marshaling a very large segment of the community wanting to talk about it.
Good, great.
Yeah.
And the citizens petitions will all be together in the same night?
The citizen petitions are sprinkled throughout the, we never put a citizen petition on the consent calendar.
No.
But they're sprinkled through the warrant, and there's at least two of them that I think are a little uncertain with respect to whether or how they're going to be moved. So that's still kind of in discussion, and we're reviewing motions with town council tomorrow, and we'll, I expect to have decisions on that before the briefing book goes to press.
Very good.
Okay?
Great.
Thank you all.
So,
Thank you.
and you didn't need a vote on that, all you needed was,
Nope, don't need a vote.
great, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. Okay.
Okay.
So now we have a little bit more business to do with respect to the articles. We have a number of articles where we decided when we met last week to take another look again today, beginning with Article 11. Wendy, do you want to talk to that?
11, you know what? This is the capital improvement. I know I'm on it, but, oh, sorry. So this one was, we didn't vote on it because of the finance department. The finance team didn't.
Yep.
The finance team wanted to learn a little bit more around the capital plan, but also specifically the financial policy work group actually did refine the metrics that we use for defining our Tier 2 capital and the capital outlay. And so in the Finance Committee meeting, we actually walked through a proposal of how we're going to revise those metrics, and Jennifer walked through the actual calculation and confirmed that the allocation for Tier 2 capital as well as capital outlay are within the policy metrics that we outlined. So I think that that part of that was what was holding up the Finance Committee's opinion about that article around the Tier 2 debt.
Wasn't it also the use of free cash?
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
also free cash. So part of that policy also, there was a concern about, well, we have a free cash policy that says that we would use free cash if we had available funds in excess of 10% of our total budget.
Right.
And in that walkthrough of the calculation, they also referenced sort of the 2 million and the major uses of free cash, and acknowledged that even using that kept us within the limit that the policy was recommending for free cash.
So this,
As well.
this capital improvement plan will be paid for by free cash this year.
Well, it's going to be paid for
Capital outlay
two-
is.
in two ways,
Overlay.
actually. And it
there's
did
another one
change
as well. Yep.
on
Yeah,
the
help me
19th.
understand this.
So
No,
there
so
were
the
two
other way, yeah.
possible motions.
The outlay?
The overlay
You have
surplus
it, yeah.
Oh, that's
account.
right.
So
right.
Yes.
the motion, as I understand it
It's the
from
outlay.
last Thursday's meeting,
Yep.
is that it will now be $2,169,420 will be a transfer from the overlay surplus, and $909,000 to transfer from free cash
Right.
for $1.5 million for a total apportionment of $4.628,420 to fund the capital improvement debt plan that's printed in the briefing book.
Wait,
So
That's
the
a combination.
the change actually is that, actually, I might have,
these don't,
raise and appropriate 2.1 million to transfer from the overlay surplus 909,000
Right.
and to transfer from free cash 1.5 million for a total of 4.6. Let me say it that way.
very good, very good, good.
And what's different about that was the original article proposed also issuing bonds.
That's right.
So by using the overlay surplus, which I'll just quickly, as an aside, mention, is money that the assessors no longer feel they need to hang on to it for resolving possible abatement requests. So it's already been collected, so it's being released for other purposes. By using that funding there, the expectation is that this year's capital plan can avoid new borrowing, thereby bringing down the total borrowing that the town is doing.
Thank
There were a
you.
lot of things, yeah, and that's new, that's a result of the policy also, because now we're annually going to reassess the overlay.
Very good.
So I think it's a great outcome
Yeah,
Yeah.
to utilize what we have in the surplus and the free cash. I guess my only question is then, does it mean the article gets restated?
Well, the motion
The
under
motion
the
was
article
revised,
is,
yeah.
there were two possible motions, and
Okay.
the fundamental difference between them is that the motion that's expected no longer includes
Debt.
issuing debt as one of the
Yep.
ways of coming up with the
Yep.
4.2. It's the same amount of money.
Yep.
It's just not going to be any debt.
Good,
Okay.
very good.
With that, do I hear a motion to recommend the town meeting take affirmative action on Article 11 as discussed?
so moved. Oh, second.
Right. Yeah. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Article 12 was also represented at the Finance Committee meeting, and we've continued to work on the refinement of that. The Finance Committee did choose to recommend affirmative action by a vote of, I think it was 13-1.
Yeah.
And given that, I would be looking for also, further support from this board for that municipal facilities plan.
So sorry, the original one didn't have a dollar amount. Will it now have a?
It was in the amount of 600,000, which is as it was presented at the hearing. I brought back to the Finance Committee some additional work from town staff on exactly how that would be apportioned between the three
discussed.
projects, and also some information about the discussion that we've already had about how we were proposing to oversee that, and we're going to continue that discussion almost next, I think.
And I think that discussion was excellent. It went as far as you can go, specifying,
Yep.
where the funds are going to be allocated without getting into each individual task, so
It's a good
You did a great
presentation.
job.
very good.
So I move affirmative action on Article 12, municipal facilities planning.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And I'll be presenting that on behalf of the board.
Good.
So that can be filled into the statement by, which will be the presentation. The next article that we elected to defer on was Article 25, the Conservation Fund bylaw. And I know that we had some questions about whether or not the NRC could create the Conservation Fund bylaw by themselves, or it could create a conservation fund by themselves.
So we had already voted on this bylaw, so the question that came up last week was Cameron's sleuthing, finding APP 54, which seemed to be in conflict because that article said any land acquisition had to go before the CHDC. So that APP preceded the existence of the Municipal Housing Trust. So I consulted with town council, and what he said exactly is he would not add the CHDC to the bylaw since the CHDC is a private entity, or he would not reference the APP in the bylaw since the APP can change without the bylaw. And he said it may be a good opportunity to update the APP, but its purpose is met. The purposes of the consultation with the housing group is met in the conservation bylaw as stated. So there's no conflict with the CHDC because we are consulting with the appropriate housing entity.
I interpret this, thank you, Paul, thank you for doing. I interpret this article as the select board putting in front of the town, do you want us to create a bylaw that gives the NRC certain authority to spend money on things, and if they want to buy land or an option on land, they consult with the select board. That's what we're putting in
Right.
front of, right?
And
So,
Yeah.
you remember the genesis of the Natural Resource Section 48C allows the Conservation Commission to set up a fund without further action.
Right.
right,
What drove this particular bylaw is that the NRC went to the CPC to ask for funding. So without this bylaw, the CPC would be setting up the fund through the funding. So we wanted to separate the creation of the fund from the appropriation, which is the difference between 25 and that part of 26. So, and also the Article 25 sets up the governance
Right.
of it and
Right.
where the select board needs to be involved in terms of approving land
Right.
acquisition, which is consistent with the other land
other
acquisitions in
bylaw, yeah.
town.
Mark, do you want to discuss 26 now, since it is related to 25?
They're interrelated.
Do you want to do that? Because I did,
Okay,
They're
let's,
interrelated, but if it's okay, 25, because I was the one who was sort
Yeah.
of poking at it.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
I'll just throw a couple of comments in on it.
Go ahead.
So yes, I think there were two issues that I had brought up. So one was the issue of can the NRC create their own,
Right.
right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm not thoroughly convinced from reading the bylaws that they are allowed, that, not the bylaws, meaning
The
the
law.
Massachusetts statute, that they are allowed to do that. But I'm also not thoroughly convinced that they aren't. It seems ambiguous.
Town council says yes. That's
So,
why we're setting up the bylaw.
So, secondly, the question was, the other thing that I had pointed out was, yes, throughout Paul, what you mentioned, the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust being in this bylaw, which seemed to be in conflict with the APP statute on the books that said it would be the Housing
well,
Development
APP,
Corporation.
it's not a statute.
It's APP.
Yeah, but it's a policy.
Yeah,
It's
the
not a
policy.
statute.
Yeah.
so,
So
There's a
that,
difference.
yes, thank you, it's true. So I guess the question is, the only question I have on that piece is, so if there's any land thing, it goes to the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust, that is the only thing in town that would evaluate land purchases or potentially make land purchases for housing.
Well, we haven't modified APP 54 to that extent, and Mina suggests that we do that, aside from this, the bylaw discussion, to make that, to do exactly what you're saying.
Correct.
yeah, so I think that there's definitely an action in the future to update APP 54 for consistency's sake, if for
Right.
another reason. And then,
Yeah. I mean, Mary, you probably, you would maybe know the answer.
Maybe.
The Municipal Affordable Housing Trust, the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust, that is the only entity in Concord that
Yes.
if we were going to purchase something
Yes.
housing-related, that's the only entity that would be,
No.
so that was sort of my question, was sort of, okay, I read this other thing that said, oh, okay, maybe you should go to this other group. And so I just was trying to understand, okay,
Right.
I know. I think the reason why they put that in there was because many times when land would become available in Concord, there would be some kind of a conflict between people who wanted housing and people who open space. So they said, okay, if we have land, we're going to, talk to the housing people before we buy this. I think that was the intent
Yes.
of that APP, right?
Yes.
CHDC can own land and property all by itself. It doesn't need the trust. It needs money, which it might come from the trust, but it doesn't need the trust.
And CHDC is Concord Housing Development Corp., not
And it's a private.
Concord Municipal
and it's a
Affordable Housing
private-
Trust, right?
It's a private,
Right.
And
and
APP
like
50,
they own Junction Village, all by themselves.
APP 54 was written before there was the trust. That
Right.
was the that was
Yes,
the housing
that's a good
entity
point,
in
too.
town
Right.
when APP 54 was
They're
written.
different entities, we should just
Right.
be careful.
but
Yeah.
So
in
there's the
terms of,
history.
in terms of the
Yeah.
impact on this particular
Right.
fund bylaw,
Yes, back here.
which is sponsored by us, I'll remind us, is that under Section 2, letter C, the specification is that prior to utilizing the funds for a purpose of acquiring real estate, the NRC director shall consult with the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust town manager and public works director to assess other potential interests in the subject real estate. So this is really suggesting that when they target a piece of property for acquisition with funds from this, they need to talk to at least these people, if not others, and elsewhere in there. We also specify that approval needs to be obtained from the select.
from the select board.
Right.
Right.
So, and that's, those constraints, let's call them, or requirements, would not exist if we do not
Yes,
put the bylaw in place. So that's the message, is that
exactly.
these things don't happen without the bylaw, without the, okay.
So it establishes it, but it doesn't fund it.
Right.
It doesn't fund it.
Yes,
It just
that's right.
says,
It doesn't
these
fund
are
it.
the
Yep.
rules.
Yep.
So do we have any interest at this point in recommending that town meeting take affirmative action on Article 25?
Yes,
I do.
I do too.
so moved.
Second.
Okay, so I heard a motion in there,
Yeah.
and I have a second. Is there any further questions or discussions about the effect of an affirmative action on this? Okay.
No.
Are we ready for a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. Okay, now we're on to
Yes.
the actual appropriation of money, and my understanding of what town council's position was that only town meeting can actually put money into these funds. However, a CPC appropriation is an appropriation, and that's town meeting putting money into the fund.
Right.
So now that we've got a bylaw, that bylaw would be controlling, and then, so this appropriation, among other appropriations for the CPC, would actually place some funds in that fund at this.
Right.
I think we need to talk about, though, what would happen if this Article 25 doesn't pass at town meeting. What about the appropriation that CPC is recommending, which is, I think, 500K?
500.
To go into the fund, and CPC isn't meeting until April 7th. And I've talked with the chair about the possibility of having an amendment to the article. If 25 fails, that would say that 500K would be not put in the fund, but instead would remain in the CPC open space reserve.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes sense, yeah.
Now, she can't do that without her, talking with her committee on April 7th. If they don't do that, if they, for some reason, don't do that, we, the select board, could always amend the article to do that.
are you suggesting that we should consider separately whether we support making this appropriation from the CPC?
Yes,
Okay.
based on whether 25 passes or fails. Let's think
Oh, I
this
see.
through.
If
So
20
25
if
fails.
the bylaw was
If the
not to
bylaw
pass.
fails, okay,
Yeah.
for some reason,
Okay.
I don't know, I'm not gonna
All right. I-
prejudice it, but say
Sorry.
it fails,
Okay.
then there's 500K being allocated in Article 26 to a fund that doesn't exist.
You
And
have to be prepared for either the CPC or us.
exactly, to
Yeah.
amend it, to take that out and move it from the fund to their open space reserve. So,
Some or whatever the minimum amount is. Carmen's going to help us here because
yeah, really.
there are some procedures
doing
around the
some.
CPC article that would be probably good to remind us
Go
of.
ahead.
Yeah, the good thing about the CPC article is that it's readily divisible for separate votes
Great.
by the item letters within the article. So that if for some reason town meeting does not vote to establish a conservation fund, CPC can't move the article the way that it's currently written because, as Mary points out, it would be making an appropriation to a fund that doesn't exist. And so what we would need to do, we actually have a backup motion that we've recommended to town council. We'll talk with about, we're doing this in a file together, but tomorrow we'll talk with town council about it. And basically the only thing, procedurally, they can either amend the motion under the article to change that appropriation under, I don't remember what item, it is for the conservation fund.
Yep.
Or alternatively, they can pull that item out and they can move that article without that item and move that item separately if they want to under a slightly different motion. It does the same thing.
Okay.
It's just a procedural question, but that's easy enough to fix. And the CPC, they'll be there at town meeting, and they can easily have a vote on how to react to what happens on the floor of town meeting.
So you're saying the CPC would take that action, not the select board, on the amendment?
And, okay, would they have to do this on the fly, or are we going to work with them ahead of time? Because that's what I'm a little bit concerned about that.
We'll have it drafted. They'll have it in their PowerPoint slide deck,
Okay.
just in case they need it.
So,
And you're in communication with the chair of the CPC, so,
Not yet. As soon as we have a conversation with town council, that's when we make the rounds again on everyone's
great,
motions.
okay, because I'm the liaison there, so I want to
Yeah.
make sure that I'm not giving them
Yeah.
information
Yeah,
that's
but
confusing.
we're very aware of that issue. You know,
Great.
we've got a few
Perfect.
contingencies in the
Okay.
warrant this year where if this doesn't happen, now we have to regroup for the next thing, so.
On it.
So-
Thank you.
possibly for simplicity's sake, though, our recommendation could be affirmative action as printed in the warrant, meaning
For the
as-
entire slate?
for the CPC, for Article
And then-
26, assuming that we agree that, we have an expectation of success for 25,
Right.
and 26 specifies that that appropriation would be to a conservation fund, and our assumption is that conservation fund is now regulated by the bylaw. I'm comfortable going that far. If if we think, so we could make that recommendation. Otherwise, we're going to be trying to make a game day call at town meeting as well.
But it's not unlike any other kind of amendment
Right.
that comes up at town
Right.
meeting where you
Amended.
have to huddle and make a decision about what you're going to recommend on the proposed amendment.
Right.
Yeah, if it
Okay.
turns out that they amend it and it's not what's expected, because
That might be a problem.
then we could,
Okay.
and it might make sense for us to discuss where we come down on that, but
Mark, did we want to have any discussion about any other
are there any other?
patients in there?
Well, I think it's
There are a
worth,
lot.
yeah, just because there's a lot, I think, rather than
Yeah.
trying to say a blanket, are there ones that people do want to talk about. Because I don't actually know, do we just sort of blanket support? Or I suppose in theory, we could say in theory, we could say we support these ones, but not those ones?
Yeah.
Well, that's where we are.
In the
Well-
past, my philosophy has always been that I think the CPC committee does such a great job at vetting the applications that they get. I wish we could vet all of our, all of our applications as well as they do. So I pretty much am willing to support their recommendations. This year, this is unusual because of the bylaw, but my general inclination is to
I
support
agree. The
them.
deliberations are quite detailed.
Yeah,
It was,
there
you know,
always are.
Very
Right.
complicated
They
stuff.
do a good job.
I mean, if anybody wants to discuss it, it would be
Yeah, I guess-
somebody at town meeting in
Well,
the public.
What do you
Well, no, just for me, look, I've actually, I thought about this one a lot, because, I am generally supportive. I think they do a great job. I think it's nice to see this year the list of projects, right, and what we're doing. You may not be shocked to hear from me. I do have a little bit sort of just, affordability is a big challenge, a big concern. We do continue to put money into these sort of various sort of trusts and funds and things like that, right? So, another 785 going into affordable housing, another 500 going into conservation fund. I mean, those are taxpayer dollars that people have paid that we're saying, hey, let's go, park them someplace with a different group of people. So it's not picking on the, I'm not,
Yep.
I think the CPC's does a great job. I think, these different groups are very sort of well-intended, have great, ideas on what they want to do. It is just a little bit, though, of like, okay, we're taking taxpayer dollars and putting them over here, and in a time where there's affordability, someone would say, hey, let's, So that's just, for me, I guess, a little bit of a philosophy of how we think around continuing to add money into all of those buckets.
So are you questioning whether we should be funding those buckets, or are you questioning whether we should even have those buckets? Because you're kind of giving the trusts and the
So, well,
fund.
it could be a little of both. I mean,
Okay.
so I guess, I don't want to stray too far from the topic at hand, right? Into some sort of
No,
like,
that's fine.
broader philosophy, but,
Yeah.
I think it behooves us to understand all the different trusts and funds that we have in the town and how much money we have in those pockets, right? Because it can add up to a lot when you sort of look across the patch. And, we've been funding a lot of affordable housing, and we're continuing to do that, but at what levels do we sort of need that going forward, right? So, and now we're establishing a conservation fund, and, there's a lot of things that, people want to make sure we're doing to make the town affordable. So it's that balance.
Well, remember, the CPC by law has to spend money on housing, open space recreation, and historic. So the CPC law said, hey, we're going to take some funding and dedicate it to these things, right? So it's doing what the law and what when we voted to implement that legislation here at the local level, we agreed to do that. So,
Can I just say, I think Keith Bergman is cognizant of this and does a good job accounting for this, and has the housing roundtable to account for it. A bit of the history, when I was on the CPC, when each of the housing entities would in an uncoordinated way, would bring applications before the CPC. And the housing groups decided that there'd be one application, and the funding would be through the CPC, through the Housing Trust. But they would be accountable and transparent about exactly what they're funding. So I think there's no lack of transparency in how they're spending the money.
What is new about this, of course, is that the NRC is not typically a group that one goes looking for funding for acquisitions of
Right.
before. So
Right.
going forward from here, the role of potentially being the proponent, or, and having an independent, at least somewhat independent role in pursuing those land opportunities is going to be added to the NRC's responsibility. Now, in a similar way to that the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust is now responsible for that. So that may point us towards a slightly different skill set or orientation for some of the NRC membership going forward, I think. But in principle, it does also move the opportunity to pursue, to look at these things closer to where the actual knowledge and expertise on open space and conservation is as well, and the interest. So I think that it can work. I think the Affordable Housing Trust has been a good exemplar of how to do it. And I think that it, we'll be, as a community, watching to see how effective this is versus, the old process, which would have been to identify a piece of land and begin to get together the funding and try to make it into a CPC cycle. This provides the opportunity to respond a little bit more quickly. So that's why I'm generally in favor of both the bylaw and I'm in favor of the bylaw because I think it puts some guidelines around it that can be amended in the future to make sure our expectations are being met. And the opportunity to try this is a more potentially efficient way of getting those resources in after the right opportunities. It makes sense. I do recall the discussion that we had when the NRC members and the Natural Resources Director was here about what is this target of properties that they're interested in. I think that is something else that also needs to be fleshed out a little bit more. And I'm hoping we'll hear some of that when presumably the NRC will speak to their support of this article.
And this debate about buckets, CPC has had deep discussions about this, and they weren't easy discussions as well.
Yeah, and they're not obligated.
And they weren't unanimous.
And they're not obligated.
So to be clear, Mayor, I know what you're saying, and you're very correct in saying, like, here's what the CBC is, here's what it's for.
Yep.
There's also sort of a, hey, spend it on specific projects when specific projects come up, or there's a little bit of what we're doing, which is put it into these buckets for later.
Yeah.
So I've said my piece.
So I want to go back to our
Right.
housekeeping.
So would you like a motion on this? Because we haven't made one.
We
on
did
26.
agree to Article 25.
Yes, so I make a motion to approve Article 26, CPC appropriation, as printed in the warrant.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That brings us to Article 30.
30,
All right,
solar rooftop.
solar rooftop bylaw. So there has been some discussion about this. I know, I'll note that Dean is here.
Right.
With some folks, really, I think it's been primarily around whether it makes sense to have a bylaw and the flexibility of the bylaw. This is one that, where did the
Versus an
Finance
APP.
Committee come down on this?
They didn't vote on it.
They
It's a
didn't vote
citizen
on it?
petition, right?
Public Works.
Public Works Commission,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's different.
Andre
Yeah.
is back there. And the Public Works Commission met and discussed this earlier last week, and they chose not to recommend no action or not to recommend affirmative action on this, expressing a preference for potential policy or something that might
An APP,
allow,
yeah.
allow more flexibility to the town. And my understanding is that there is some discussion with the proponent about this, that they might be open to a policy solution. I don't believe the timing of that has been discussed. Would you like to speak to that, Dean?
Yes, I would. Which of these mics is the preferred?
Should be either one, as long as the green light's
That
on.
one's green, yeah, right.
All right.
Yeah.
Dean Banfield, 73 Walden Terrace, and the petitioner for this article. In conversation with the moderator, I requested some latitude to understand whether it would be within scope to change the proposed the article as printed in the warrant, which recommends a bylaw with this text, to urging Select Board to adopt a policy with this text. And the moderator did indicate to me that that would be within scope and that I could modify my motion to recommend a policy. Recommend that the town meeting urge the Select Board to establish a policy. So.
Yeah. So can I just comment about the policy, because while Dean's here, Dean and I and somebody else actually talked about an earlier version of this, of an APP policy, which in essence is exactly the same as the bylaw with two differences. One is the APP policy that was originally drafted had a requirement to orient a building, to optimize the building for orientation to optimize solar. That requirement, as originally drafted, was removed. So
That's
thank you,
correct.
Dean, for doing that. The other question that came up was a question about size of the building upon which we would require solar. The APP policy at the time was 15,000 square feet, and the current bylaw is 7,500. And so-
The previous policy that we consulted
we've
on,
done.
Wendy, had to do with the size of the building,
Right.
and we changed that to the size of the array. So
The array,
that's
okay.
just saying, yeah.
That's okay.
Yep.
So I just, my point was there was some discussion there. But in essence, what's in the bylaw is what we would otherwise have agreed to for an APP policy. So certainly in support of making this an APP policy.
So now that the middle school solar issue is kind of behind us, I'm just wondering what the practical implication of a policy or a bylaw would be, since it only applies to municipal buildings. And we know that there's some coming up, and I'm just wondering, we don't know what those designs are going to be. And you have this opt-out, and is the opt-out still, I'll call it the opt-out, the appeal process. So this says, new municipal buildings will have solar, but they could be appealed to the Select Board.
If
So
there's a reason, a rational reason why it doesn't make sense, then you could certainly appeal to the Select Board for a waiver.
It puts the burden on the Select Board to kind of understand the building restrictions. I'm thinking of new fire and police and getting into that. I'm just kind of wondering what the practical advantages and limitations are kind of moving forward, and what the real impact it would have. I mean, I'm all for solar and all the issues behind that, but I'm just wondering what are we creating more of a transactional process than getting benefits out of a policy or a bylaw?
Yeah, I mean, well, go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna, the middle school is a pretty good example of what happens when you don't have a policy or a bylaw.
Right.
The concern, if I could characterize it at the time, was that this middle school was possibly going to cost over $100 million. It did. And the idea of adding, $1 million worth of construction costs by adding solar to that building and financing it for, with long-term debt was essentially value engineered out of the design in order to save money. Now, I think that most of us recognize that over the long run, that does not save money, because now we've got a building that needs to pay, and continues to pay market rates for electricity when it could have opened without it. And then we further went on to pass funding to try to get it done, but that, and I was am still a member of the middle school building committee, and we saw that attempting to do two projects at the same time was going to put a $100 million project at risk of missing a schedule or a milestone. And so the building stands there, a year plus after opening with, no actual plan to accomplish what the community actually voted to try to do to that building. So it seems to me that it's classic project management. It's a lot easier to change things when you're planning them than it is to change them when you're already doing them. And that's exactly what happened. And so to my mind, whether it's a policy or a bylaw is a little bit of semantics, but stating very clearly that that situation is going to be avoided in the future, I think is valuable.
I agree.
So I don't, I think solar's a noble cause. Excess bureaucracy and trying to solve a sort of 6-year-ago problem, to me, I don't think it adds any value. So I think, in a new building, you would look at the cost and the benefit, and you would look at the energy opportunities, and look at sort of the spectrum of what's available. I think we've already regulated a lot of things in town. People are concerned about cost, they're concerned about affordability. You want to make sure you've got the best sort of solution that's holistic, right? That includes clean energy, that includes cost, and that the folks that plan these things and the people that support them can take that on a project by project basis. We've banned natural gas. We get all of our energy is clean from an electricity standpoint. So creating excess sort of regulations and policies that then we would ask people to sort of go and kind of beg for an opt-out, is not something that I'm going to support.
So can I just add, I just want to remind people that we have a climate action plan that does have a number of requests in it. One of our goals was to add 20 megawatts of solar in town, what was on in-town property. So this is sort of in line with some of our climate goals, and the community has voted in support of that. So the solar is in support of that.
Looking at almost tripling the solar
Well,
at the landfill. And
Yeah, but we're not 20 megawatts. We're only 7 point, I don't know, Dean knows this better than me,
So I agree with
7.5.
that,
But
so we would pursue uneconomic and.
no, but I think part of when we
programs,
voted for climate
so
action,
if
we
you're
knew
gonna
it.
build a new building and it makes sense, then you should.
So let me just step back. So when we voted climate, right, and we knew that by voting for some of this, it might actually cost us more money, but we as a community voted for some of those changes. So just
My question is, how do we get this done? I agree with the climate
Right.
action plan
Yep.
and all this. The question is, what's the mechanism for getting this done? This town has a strong sustainability ethos, so I think in any new building, we're going to take sustainability considerations.
Right.
We already have fossil fuel. So do we need a restrictive bylaw or a policy? We could have a policy which urges and directs, but a policy that is restrictive, that insists. Do we need that, given who we are?
Does it insist? I don't know.
My point is that it's a matter of timeframes.
Yes.
Rooftop solar pays back in 6, 7,
Years, right.
10 years at the outside. And it definitely pays back in new construction in that kind of time frame because it's efficient to put on. Retrofitting costs more and increases the payback time. But in the moment, when you're looking at a very big price tag for a very new building, one could ask the question, would a 7.5 kilowatt hour solar array fit on top of the amenities building? Because the amenities building was presumably just approved in Article 25 here, and without this policy, it's being planned and going to be deployed with nothing on it.
That's on the CCHS property, and this would not apply. So,
I agree.
But it's a town building.
It's not, but it's the region.
the region,
It's the region.
it's the district's
If the
building.
Yeah.
project makes sense, we should.
Well,
design it.
my point is that it always makes sense if you make your time frame long enough. And it never makes sense if your time frame is short. And that's the decision that happens every single time. And so the question is, what do you do to enhance the long-term thinking?
I agree with what you're saying. I think we're talking past each other a little bit. I'm just saying, what is the mechanism that we get there? Do we need,
Yeah.
because what you say makes sense, and it's going to make sense to every new building construction.
Yeah.
Do we need a bylaw or an APP
So-
policy to get that done?
Yeah.
If you think we do, because it's not going to get done without that, then we
Yeah,
should
that's
have a
probably
policy.
that is the question here, and the idea of making it a policy subjects it to this and any future select board's majority decision about whether or not it's going to be enforced. As a bylaw, at least it stays on the books for longer because town meeting has to act to take it down, even though, as Dean noted, the select board whatever sitting select board at the time has the opportunity to make an exception in any particular future case. So I think the answer to your question, Paul, is a bylaw is a stronger version of a policy, which is a stronger version than it's sitting in the climate action plan as a goal. So it does depend on what we think is the right level of, let's call it nudge, towards solar.
And you think with the climate action plan and all our sustainability initiatives, it wouldn't happen without a bylaw?
Well, it didn't
Well, it
happen.
hasn't, right? And that's
It's not
partly.
happening.
So don't forget, the Solar Task Force did
Not happening
recommend.
is in the eye of,
We needed to do something. We needed to put some kind of policy in place. And I think what Dean is starting to say is that the APP didn't happen, let's do the bylaw, right? And so to Mark's point, the bylaw may last longer.
Yeah. So I guess my question is to Dean, are you intending to modify the motion to be an urge a policy?
I am intending to do that, which what that does actually is it does grant the select board some latitude to craft the policy. The policy as recommended by town meeting is just a recommendation to a future select board to craft the policy. And it has been the history of recommendations to town bodies that they sometimes get ignored, completely ignored. I would hope that that not happen in this case, but those things happen. So an urge is a much less demanding, presentation to town meeting than to craft to recommend a bylaw. So I'm willing to sort of stand down, as it were, and grant that latitude to a future select board. And in that conciliatory move, I'm hoping that this can get affirmative, recommended affirmative action from your board.
And the way you state that, I would be in favor of a non-restrictive policy where we have some latitude that urges us collectively, municipal planning, to accomplish that.
To be clear, the town meeting will vote on urging the select board to adopt a policy as written here. A future select board could decide not, to add another clause or to take out a clause or do what they want. But the goal would be the goal the town meeting would try to achieve would be to get the select board to adopt this policy. That's what would be in front of the town.
But it would be up to the select board to actually enact that.
That's correct.
Right.
Good.
So in light of a possible change to the warrant, should we hold our decision?
Well,
I'm going to state for the record that I'm going to move to
Okay.
urge the select board so that you have
Okay.
something that you can work with tonight. That's all.
I guess I'll go ahead and say that I think that we could, in the name of not having a lot of bylaws that are difficult to change, we could try to see whether adopting a policy makes any difference in terms of our experience with putting solar on new buildings that are created. So I'd be supportive of recommending that the town meeting do urge the select board to create a policy along those lines and stop short of a bylaw, and we can see whether it works. I think that puts a little bit more assertion behind the idea. So, and I think that we could say that in the briefing book that we expect that it's an affirmative action on creating a policy.
Yeah. I would certainly support that approach as well.
Any further?
I could support that.
Do I have a motion?
Okay.
yeah, you can make a motion, but I just find it unnecessary. I find it bureaucratic. I'm fully supportive of solar. I don't think this is, good policy or good, not something that we need, so.
I think the policy, the way I look at it, I'm in favor, because it's a statement of intent.
Yeah, it's virtue signaling.
It's not a law, it's not,
No, it's not virtue signaling, it's virtue.
All right, can I, I'll make a motion that we take affirmative action on an article to urge the select board to create a policy around rooftop solar.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
4-1.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
My understanding is that Article 31 is not being moved. I'm looking. Is that
Is that true?
correct?
I don't know.
I don't know. We
I
better,
don't-
I thought that,
do you know?
I thought I got some confirmation on that.
I haven't heard that from the petitioner.
I don't know that it's.
I haven't heard that from the petitioner. I've heard it from other people that were party to it, but not the petitioner.
Okay,
She's still looking.
that's the Revolutionary War Monument.
Yeah, 31. 31.
What I understand about this one is that there is an alternative motion that is, has been drafted and submitted under the article, which reads a little different from the article itself, but it may not be moved. I don't know that they've made a definitive,
Okay.
that they've made an actual decision about it. And it would probably be helpful if I told you what the motion was. Let's see if I can figure that out.
So I guess then the question is whether we,
I'd
Taking it
rather
out.
defer to learn more about what this might be, but
I feel pretty uninformed about this.
very much
new
so.
and we don't know if it's going to be.
Yeah, I think we should,
Yeah.
So do you have anything, Kerman, that we can?
but I don't know if Carmen should be the one.
I
to
don't
do it.
have the specific motion in front of me.
Yeah.
I can tell you that in general, it's basically going to turn, the motion would be basically to ask town meeting to adopt a resolution supporting the idea of the design and construction of a Revolutionary War memorial on the identified site, I forget the parcel number, with the approval of all the necessary boards, including the Historic District Commission, the Select Board, the Planning Board, et cetera.
But
And the
approve this-
funding? And the
this
funding?
group
And
to
the
do it.
funding, right, that's
And the
the
funding?
question. Yeah, that's
That organization.
the 250th Corps.
It's not an approval,
I think we
it's
need-
just, it's
I think,
just a
no, I'd like to
resolution
defer.
to support the idea.
Yeah, so,
Town meeting, as it turns out, town meeting does not have the authority to authorize a private corporation
right,
to
I
spend
wouldn't think
money.
so. That's what we were waiting
Nor
for.
does it have the authority to accept the design and placement of a monument. However, the citizens, through the vehicle of a resolution at town meeting, can tell you what they think.
Yeah. they can-
And that's,
Urge your-
so that
Yes.
basically is what the petitioners are thinking about moving.
Okay.
But when the motion was submitted, turning this into a resolution, it came along with a statement, if it is moved. So I don't know the
Okay.
answer. And of course,
So-
they don't have to decide
Yeah.
until we get
Town
to this
meeting.
article at town meeting.
Oh, my gosh.
So should I make a motion that we defer decision on
Yeah.
Article 31 to
Yeah.
town meeting?
I think that-
yes.
Well, at least till a
I'll
later
second
meeting.
that.
Well,
that
at
makes
town
sense.
meeting will be the last,
Well, I will take the action to reach out to the petitioner and
okay,
at least provide them with an opportunity to explain this article to us at one of the two
Oh,
meetings
good.
that we have before
Okay.
town meeting, so
Okay.
that hopefully,
If
you
they
know,
want to move it, yeah.
yeah, if
Okay.
they're planning to move it, we should at least be informed enough that we're not
Right.
deciding right there on the spot. But I think that, yeah, our action at this point should be to say that we'll make a recommendation at town meeting.
okay, that's on the table.
Okay.
Okay, good idea.
Great.
Do we have to vote that? just saying.
Anybody concerned?
No, that's a good
Okay,
idea.
we don't have to vote that.
Okay, good.
42.
Citizen petition, proposed composting rate plan. This, again, the Public Works Commission did meet and did recommend no action on this one as well, mainly out of concerns for the impact that it might have on town staff, trying to implement a program for which there are fairly readily available commercial
Yes.
Right.
offerings. Does anybody else need any more information on that?
So I'll just comment that the Climate Action Plan, as you might expect, voted in support of it. But there was an interesting conversation about whether this had to be integrated with Concord's billing system so that we had to do the invoicing and the question. It was a little unclear whether that was a requirement. So to the point of having a third party just do this, independent of the town, seemed to be an open question.
I would just add, I'm just thrilled that high school students.
Yeah, no, that
Yes.
was great that
Forward
they
and
did.
that they're
Yep,
active. and-
Yep,
And the
Yeah.
idea and the environmental grounding is pretty
Yep.
sound, but the mechanics
Yep.
and the financials just are
That's
not sound.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
so
Okay.
it's a great idea, but its time has not yet come for the town to do that, I think.
Okay. Do I hear a
I move
motion?
that we recommend no action on Article 42.
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Okay.
Oh,
So that gets us to the end of our recommendations.
okay.
No, no action.
Mark, do you want to name,
Oh, yeah,
Thank
this
you for
is,
that.
yeah,
People.
Um,
this is not,
We have
This
names
was
on
the-
almost everything, right?
no, but this is for the motions. This is for the, this is,
Okay, so there's a document tonight that was provided by Shannon,
Shannon.
which is just really naming who's going to be named as the mover on certain
Motion.
articles. Articles 10 and 11, which are the town budget and the capital improvement plan, are typically moved by the chair, which would be me. So the municipal facilities planning, I will be presenting that. And I think the charts may already say Mr. Howell.
yeah, I
but-
think they did.
It's up.
Yeah, it was draft.
And other than that, it's up for grabs if anyone wants to see their name in lights. They can,
Well, I'm happy to do 18 because I was part of that recommendation, middle school
I
stabilization.
was the mover for 27, that's on the consent agenda, so I'm happy to
okay.
stay on the consent agenda.
Okay, so 27 is going to be Hartman, and 25 is Bohm, and 18 is Ravelli.
Yep, which is also on the consent.
Good.
and, I'm sorry, 12?
10, 11, and 12 are all me.
And, Mark, I'm sorry, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but on the chart that's up on the screen,
Yes.
do we want to name,
Yes,
Oh,
and,
yeah. What number are we on?
okay.
so, 30s?
Who would like to make a statement on the
Um,
rooftop solar bylaw?
I can.
Wendy?
It's climate related.
Okay. Zoning, the building inspector, is that on the consent calendar?
Yes,
that is.
38 and 39 are on the consent.
These are statements at town meeting,
Yeah,
Yeah, but we don't, we're, yeah,
If, like,
if
if
necessary.
necessary.
I mean, you can put me on it, but it
Okay.
ain't gonna happen,
Let's
I
say-
know.
It ain't gonna happen.
That's not.
yeah.
Okay. The stormwater enterprise, it sounds like it might happen because we're
That's
gonna.
Paul, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
40, you can put my name on 40,
Yeah,
but we're not
put-
gonna,
Where
Put
Cameron.
Cameron,
nothing's, it's on the
Whoever's the-
consent.
Yeah, that's-
solid
Yeah.
waste disposal fund, oh, I'm sorry,
Whoever the liaison is on these.
citizens composting. Does anybody, who's got climate action?
I do.
You do?
You put me on that too?
No, not if you don't want it.
Okay, I prefer not to.
I
I've
could
already
do-
got
I
a
could
few
do that
of
to
these. Do
Public
you want
Works
to do that
thing.
one?
Yeah, I
could do
Okay.
Paul.
If needed.
All right, solid waste
It'll be needed.
disposal, which is also on the consent
Seven.
calendar, I believe.
It is, all the enterprise, 43 through 48 are on enterprise. I mean, sorry, on the consent, that's not on.
All right. I think the only one that might see the light of day is the Beatty Center. Who's on rec?
Me.
Who's- oh.
Okay, Mary, can you
Sure.
talk to that?
Yeah.
And the rest of them,
Oh, they help Paul.
if there's a need for unpaid bills or rescind, I'll do that, but I doubt it.
It's not being moved.
The last two?
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
think that one's being
unpaid
moved.
bills not being moved,
Yep.
yeah. And for the rest of the enterprise funds, sewer, water,
What is the
do
liaison,
we have a
right?
liaison to the PEG Access Group?
I am,
Oh,
You are?
yeah.
That's
Okay, so
not-
you get all those blanks. Okay,
Good luck.
I'm sorry, all of these are gonna be Paul, the
Yeah.
the remaining.
yeah.
Yep.
Well-
Not that we expect a lot of
Yeah, I mean-
statements.
there's no
but-
fee, anything, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, those are ones, if they come off the consent, you get at least a day to figure out why and craft a statement anyway. Okay.
And is there somebody on 39? Did we assign someone to 39? That was revolving funds, but I think that was on the consent also.
Yeah,
39 is you, Wendy.
Oh, okay.
okay.
All
All
right.
right, great. Okay, so that's, we're not too far off. Okay, we've got a letter in the packet today from, drafted by Alan and his team to Mass DOT. And the purpose of this letter, Alan, do you want to come up? This has happened to me twice now. Okay,
Sure. Good evening, Alan Cathcart, Director, Concord Public Works. Mark knows, and he's been part of a team that's been discussing the rotary redesign, reconfiguration with Mass DOT. We've had a number of meetings over the past year, and Mass DOT is evaluating concept plans that they've been sharing with this working group. We've included representation from DCAM as well. There's an obvious interest and nexus with the redevelopment at MCI. So we've been sort of having some back and forth. There's been lots of discussion. Primarily, it's been MassDOT showing us various concepts, but there hasn't been anything really formal other than I think they're just sort of testing the waters, seeing what they think may be acceptable to the town. We finally opted to put our interest in writing. I will sort of explain, and I can kind of walk through briefly what this letter is intended to do, but I will share MassDOT is very interested in sort of containing the plan of work and scope. We understand that, you know, with Concord's interest, we've done some transportation assessments. We understand there's an interest for pedestrian and cycling connectivity across Route 2. Just for context, MassDOT's also done a evaluation of widening of Route 2 as well, but it's a separate project. But we just figured at this point there's been some public interest expressed with the Route 2 corridor study and some comments that have been submitted. The Rotary has its own set of needs and interests, and so this letter, they asked us for something in writing so they can start looking at what the town's interests are. I will volunteer. We have sort of stretched their request because we want to make sure that the community understands that we collectively have been listening to those interests. We fully expect, MassDOT may look at some of these requests and maybe want to sort of, what we're telling them is need to identify and maybe address them. Whether they, proceed in some of these is really up to them. But if you see the way it's been scripted, it's intended to put everything on the table to begin with before there's really a public vetting. We're very sensitive to working with them as far as a schedule. They want to get, and they're very eager to get their public outreach moving. They'd like to do it as soon as possible, and they're sort of sensitive to the fact that we are going through the MCI redevelopment master planning, and we're trying to make sure that we coordinate any outreach to the community so it's, tethered to the fact that, the community's not going to know the difference if MassDOT's coming with a Rotary and then we come with MCI redevelopment. So they're sensitive to, we want to partner with them. That's one of the reasons we have DCAM in the loop. And in essence, it's a very high level. You'll see that we've identified certain things that we think are non-negotiable, some things that are negotiable. For instance, we know that with the redevelopment, we're very interested in what happens and the impact on Baker Ave intersection. We know it's very close. We know their limit of work. They want to contain it to not extending into the Baker Ave intersection, but they are entertaining these discussions with us. We know we're interested in connectivity with the Baker Ave commercial complex and MCI. Again, they're going to look at that as really that's a town issue. That's not what we're talking about, the Rotary. But we're just trying to put everything we can in writing so when they do present to the community about some of their concepts, they're prepared for some of the questions or maybe expectations. And so that was the intent of this response. Obviously, we're hoping to get the letter to MassDOT through the Select Board as the authority in town to sort of make the case. But this is really the beginning of a process that started over 10 years ago. When I say beginning, we've seen different concept designs in the past, but now they're getting very serious about looking at the redevelopment MCI. There is a example they did in a work in Natick recently, and it's worth checking this out at the Route 27, Route 9 interchange improvements in Natick. I'd highly recommend going to the website and seeing that. You'll see how MassDOT works through a process like this, and it takes time. And they're very sensitive to community outreach. They understand the nature of this is going to be years as far as, I think their focus is this coming fall. They're going to get a pulse of, is Concord, interested? Do they have some concepts that we may be amenable to where they would then propose putting money towards a 25% design? And that's a decision point for them coming this fall. So they want to go through spring, summer to get a pulse of the community, see what our response is to some of their proposals. They obviously have to reach beyond Concord as well, but so far it's all been internal with Concord interests, front and foremost. So a few concepts. I don't know if you had a chance to read the letter, but there's some interesting things in there, including some consideration to expand their area of a footprint for this redesign, which would include the site that we have identified tentatively for a water treatment facility on the municipal light plant. We're putting that in writing. They've acknowledged this. But again, this is really just set the table for the discussions and make sure that they're aware of what we think Concord is, our interests. And when they go to the public meetings, I'm sure we'll hear more. But this is our best understanding of what we've heard from various comments, and both through the transportation study, some of the visioning over at MCI Concord, and then just some staff thoughts and comments as far as connectivity along the entire corridor. So that's the overview, and we're hoping the Select Board would be willing to authorize your chair to sign off on this response to MassDOT. We'd like to get it to them soon. So that's, I'll take a breath and you can ask questions.
That would be
Two
good.
additional things I'll add is just while Alan's breathing, is the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail crossing at Commonwealth Avenue is also an important, particularly when we start thinking about the safety concerns. Anybody who's, seen what's going on over near Donnellan's, for example, in Acton, or really pretty much any one of the crossings of where it understands that rail trail is a challenge, and that turns out to be, under some of the proposed designs that MassDOT is looking at, that area would end up being the main access point to MCI. And so if we don't, by saying that we want to make sure that the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail crossing at Commonwealth Avenue is safely incorporated and signalization that says don't make it our problem to solve all of that in what's going to become a fairly complex intersection if some of what they're doing. So none of and more broadly, none of these elements that are being listed in this are new to the discussion with MassDOT. They've been part of these monthly and quarterly updates and coordinations that have been going on with Alan's team, with DCAM, and but it is not too hard to see how actually sending a letter that says, by the way, we've been talking about these things and we expect to continue to talk about these things, would be important at this point in time when they're thinking about what they might advance for eventual funding through the traffic improvement program. So I think it's important that we go on record saying these are important planning points. And we are also, as we're going to discuss later in this meeting in more detail, embarking on a master plan and process for MCI specifically, which is going to try and define a preferred set of traffic circulations and access points that we really do want to communicate to MassDOT, and we're trying to say, let's make sure that gets into the mix as well through this letter.
Do you want to hear from us?
We do.
I'll start, shall I?
You may.
Thank you. Thank you for this. This is very complex, and you've certainly captured a lot of the parts. There's a lot of variables here at work. I would just make, at the end where you're kind of summing up and you say, based on this work the town of Concord recommends, I think you might want to be very clear on, the 3 or 4 things that you really want to highlight, which I'm hearing is to include Baker Ave. I'm hearing to include the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail access and the permeability for bike and pedestrian access between North and South Concord, besides the things that you've got listed here, which is to explain to us why you want an at-grade alternative. So I think at this end, when you're summing it up, really concentrate on those things that you're really interested in. And that would be my first recommendation. But my second recommendation is that when I read this letter, and I've read it several times, as I mentioned to Mark, I'm wondering if maybe at some point in the letter we also want to say that we do support the objective of improving vehicular access through Concord, because we don't say that at all.
You're saying through Concord, just through Route 2?
Through Route 2.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Improving the intersection,
Yeah, through Route 2.
For the
Yeah.
regional benefit.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah. And not just for the regional benefit. I mean, if anybody tries to get through on Baker Ave or the Rotary at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's impossible. So it is.
Yeah, no, I think we mentioned cut through, but.
Yeah, you did.
But no, that's different. Cut through is different than, I want to get on Route 2 because I want to go someplace in Concord and get off of Route 2. So it's,
Okay.
cut through is, to me, means people are avoiding Route 2.
Your entry
And
points
what I'm
onto
saying
Route
is,
2.
when I have to go on Route 2 to get across town,
Yeah.
that's where I'm getting log jammed. So it takes me, so in other words, to me,
Yeah,
just my 2 points were,
Sure, yeah.
and again, I think that getting people through, again, the logjam of vehicles at the Rotary is something that would benefit the region and the residents of Concord. And I think, at least, that's something I would like to see improved. That's my comment.
Yeah. just want to make sure that we're not trying to do too much here. I mean, it looks like there's a lot, and maybe it's just tightening the letter. I mean, obviously, the focal point is the Rotary and things connected to the Rotary. Baker Avenue, Bruce Street and Rail Trail, the water treatment plant, everything around there. I'm just wondering, the receptivity, I want the receptivity of this letter to be pretty, hey, this is great, as opposed to, boy, there's a lot here. And it is a lot here. And I just, when I see the heading says non-negotiable elements, that,
Yeah,
it kind of sets me,
Sure.
it kind of sets me off a little bit. Maybe because, I mean, I like the elements in there, but I think
Concord priority?
Yeah, highest significance or.
yeah, highest priorities, or,
Yeah.
everything's negotiable.
Yeah.
So, and I think we want them to be receptive to this. We want it to be focused on the Rotary and Rotary MCI working outwards, and how far out we want to go in Route 2. Obviously, traffic that backs up from Route 2 and impacts the rest of the town, I think it's a rationale for improving the Rotary. But, so the focal point, I think you have it here, but, and the heading says Route 2, right? So that's what it is. Excuse me, the Rotary. Just want to make sure that it maintains that focus, and we just maybe soften the tone a little bit, because
We were, during the discussion, we just were trying to make sure that the community knows we've been asking these questions, and you're right, it's everything in the kitchen sink, but we want them to be prepared for these questions when they're doing the public outreach, and they should have answers. We want to make sure that didn't get lost in our discussion. I think that was the intent.
linking everything to the Rotary, start there, and, if we go too far out and it can't link it to the Rotary, it's something desirable, but from the DOT point of view, they're going to say, that's nice.
You're
That's not
correct.
connected to you.
Yes.
So, I haven't really worked that all out, but, it's a tree of decisions and issues that's related to the Rotary.
So I found this interesting. I mean, clearly what you're trying to do is memorialize all your conversations and put them in writing, right?
Yeah.
So I was sort of realized quickly, I'm like, oh, this is really what you're trying to do. You're covering your bases, right? It was, the orientation just caught me off guard. I had the same sort of reaction about sort of non-negotiable elements, and didn't know if that was the right wording. And those are the high priority or most, I don't know if there's some way to prioritize that. I think it would be helpful. I was interested in sort of the reference to they're going to make these designs public sooner than later. Is that true? Like you said, this spring.
Yeah,
So
they
is there
want to get
something
out.
coming right away?
Yeah, they're eager to start, sort of sharing some concepts with the community.
All right, and I know you sort of mentioned a little bit that we need to sort of get on the same page when that outreach starts, right?
That's right.
'Cause people are going to be all over it when it starts.
Exactly.
Right, so that's important. And so the 25% design that you're talking to, do they have to come up with a design to start the funding process?
Yeah, they have to feel as if they're on the right track and Concord is receptive to what their concepts are.
Yeah,
Then they will make a plan. They have a 5-year plan that they revisit, annually. But
Yeah.
in the fall, they're going to get a sense of, is Concord, are we going to be able to partner with them? Does it look like we're on track? If so, then they would be making a recommendation to get the funding to do the 25%. The 25% design can take years.
yeah, no, it's like the bridge took forever.
Yeah, exactly.
So there was a reference in here to the above, to the at-grade design versus above grade. So I just, there was just some, there were reasons why you sort of said two different things. At one point, the at-grade option would be of key interest, and then later in the article, we talk about why that's important. But is there something about above-grade options in here? Is there something about all these options that is worth stating? I don't know. You've obviously had conversations. I just don't know what they
The
are.
options that appear to be under the most serious consideration by Mass DOT are all not at grade.
They're not, oh,
Right.
okay, that's interesting.
They've almost dismissed it to this point,
Right.
and we
Okay.
told them, you're going to need to explain this, because there's going to be
Okay.
lots of questions. That was the intent.
Okay, because that just, there's something funny going on here, like, there was something, maybe there's more to be said in this when you first introduce it, because I'm like, that's a weird statement, just to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just to put it on record that they
Okay.
should be able to address this interest because we think there's
Okay.
going to be a lot of it in town.
Okay, got it. And then my other comment, because this will be a letter that will become public to other people.
That's right.
You do make reference to where the potential wastewater treatment plant is and trade to CMLP. I don't know if it's worth putting a graphic in here to show where that is, like you did with Junction Village. I don't know where it is, but the public might be wanting to know where that is.
The water
I don't know if
treatment
it's
plant?
worth- This is, so you reference to
So
the
so
land on
it
CMLP.
gets to the
is-
balance of we putting everything in the kitchen sink and that's sort of, and we also know that the master plan is going to be happening contemporaneously.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're going to be working with us. So, how much do we want to put in so MassDOT is, okay, thanks, versus we got, I don't,
But they know about where that area is.
Oh, yeah, and part of that interest is to make sure that it's the egress in and out of that site, that campus, that exists off of Route 2 as we speak.
I meant on the other side by CMLP.
Oh, you're talking about, okay,
I'm
so.
talking about CMLP,
all right, so I want to be very
that
clear
potential
to this
one.
group, that's a wastewater that's a
Water
drinking
treatment
water
plant.
treatment
Sorry, I'm
facility.
sure I misspoke.
And
Yeah,
it's very easy to confuse the
dirt
two.
pile, right?
Yeah.
That's right, it's for drinking water, correct.
Yeah.
It's the dirt pile now.
Yeah, and I said wastewater.
It is where that pile is, yes, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
That's an important linkage to the whole.
Oh, and they've
key.
acknowledged, they've acknowledged this. Again, I think it gets to the point of, this is so the community knows that
Right.
we've been listening to them. We're sharing it
Right.
with MassDOT, and MassDOT can at least say, thank you, and then they should be able to explain,
Yeah.
why the at-grade just doesn't work.
Yeah, I just-
Or, but we want to press it.
There's more just,
Can MassDOT come up with concepts without the master plan? I know the interaction, the chicken and egg thing here. So-
Yes, they are coming up with concepts without the master
Yeah.
plan,
Right.
but we are pressing to, keep them. It's the connection of how many, it's traffic count and from where that really is where they do their engineering.
Good. Mary?
Is it possible that they wouldn't go forward with the 25%? design?
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, if they feel like they're really not close and Concord is really,
Do we need
I
to say
think,
something
okay, I just
about
want to go
that
on the
then?
record of
Yeah.
saying, I think that would be a very bad thing.
that's
So I
their
hope-
decision, though. I have to say, it's their call
Yeah,
whether
I know,
they
but I
proceed.
also feel that when MCI first broke, Mass DOT came here and talked with us in the hearing room. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And the history has been that Concord has kind of stood in the way of any redesigns of the Rotary. And at that particular meeting, I remember saying to them that because of MCI, things had changed, and that the people in Concord were interested in redesigning the Rotary, because MCI offered some opportunities. We didn't know what they were yet, but offered some opportunities, and I felt a shift there of looking at us as we were interested in this. I would hate to see Concord stand in the way of this again.
Yeah.
I want to go on record of saying that.
I don't
So-
get the sense that that's what would occur here.
Okay.
I think we've been meeting regularly with them. The Stantec team, which is part of the master planning team, has brought some really good and useful analysis to it. I think the temptation the opportunity to make sure that enough of the adjacent elements to the Rotary project are really seriously considered as an opportunity to improve the design. It might be a little bit more complicated than what they originally are planning to do, but it is designed to head off the possibility that the MCI property becomes nothing but an on-ramp to Route 2, which is
right.
really,
I know.
the simplest solution, that you could draw up on the board uses a lot of the lands that we're talking about for nothing more than ramps and access points, and leaves relatively less of it for the community forming that I think most of us are really hoping to see at MCI. So it's important that this be done right, not just get done.
I understand.
Yeah.
Marion, I want to be very clear, my tone I don't speak for MassDOT. I'm
Yep.
just giving you the facts. It is their decision. They're saying this fall, we need to know, what are they looking for? And they're looking for, where's Concord coming from? So they feel comfortable saying, yeah, 25% design is going to be a lot of money, even the design.
Yep.
They just need to feel comfort that they're heading in the right direction, that's all.
Okay.
We need
I
to put
think the
something at
main-
the end of this letter that sort of says, we're willing to work with, I mean,
yeah,
to the point,
that's
really
what I was
encouraging.
Yeah, yeah,
that
sure,
We're here,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
committed to supporting them through this process.
That's what I was
Through
trying to
design.
say earlier.
It's a good comment, yeah, we should definitely do that.
Yeah.
And they have been, it's been very cooperative, it's
Yeah.
been very,
Okay, the
open.
tone of the letter
And
isn't.
the main point of, the
that
main
doesn't come
point
across.
here is to make sure that there's enough things that are brought into the scope of that design to make sure that it's going to work out well for both local circulation and the MCI development and the regional circulation, not just to
I
solve
understand
for
it's
But
the.
I think it
balance.
is, I think, I mean, it may, Mary, to your point a little bit, I think, which is, are we trying to, in the letter, is the purpose to try to cover every point that we want? Or is the purpose to more say, hey, we want to work with you? And, here's some examples of things that we think are
Right.
important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But, may not necessarily be comprehensive, because those are two kind of different letters in a way. Like, one is like, oh, make sure, if we're missing something, we gotta add it,
Yeah.
make sure the list is complete. Another one is more sort of, hey, look, the tone is, and, here's some highlights.
Yes.
We wanna work with you on the details.
Yes.
But I'm hearing you really want to memorialize your conversation, so you need the kitchen sink in this letter. That's what I'm
Well,
hearing now.
that's the question. I
But
don't know.
I think, but
I think
that's
we're
what
saying it
asked.
has to taste great and be less filling, we can probably do that.
Okay.
Just one,
Yeah, but it-
I'm a very visual guy. What we're talking about would look great if there was some diagram of how all this connects to the Rotary, all the pieces that we're talking about, as many as possible, so they can see how the connections are. I'm just saying.
Just do
I
the
think-
design.
I mean, all these things connect.
To be clear, none of this will come as a surprise.
Yeah.
The only thing I might say is, I thought we kind of talked about that, but we want to make sure it's publicly discussed.
Right.
Well, but we don't want them saying, how does that connect to the Rotary anyway?
So-
Okay.
Well, we don't know yet.
Yeah, so I'll just give
We
you,
don't know yet.
if we're,
Well, everything connects.
I think the purpose is that we want to finalize this letter,
well, we
We
want,
just want
so,
to.
finalize feedback.
We're giving.
yeah, provide input and.
In fact, if we understand the concept, I don't know what latitude you have. Mark has been part of the discussions, and our interest is to get them a response, and that's really,
Yeah,
as
so
soon as
let
we
me,
can
I'll
do
just
that.
add
yeah.
a couple of other just smaller comments.
Yeah.
If we're just going to tune up the letter.
Yeah.
Just, the page numbers, kept saying 203, 304, 405, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
The bottom of page 3, top of page 4, I just think we don't need to list necessarily every committee in a bullet point. I mean, we might be able to squeeze sort of,
Yes.
our own list of committees down,
Sure.
And then there's just a couple of page 3, it sort of has like MBTA in front of a bullet.
Yeah, I didn't know what that
Seems very
was
stray.
either. I'm like,
There's a
yeah.
couple of those, just, I
That's,
don't want
yeah,
to go
that-
through every nit, but just read
No,
it.
correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
just read it and
yes.
sort
Yeah.
of tighten up the.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wordsmithing.
Yes.
I guess I would say.
And final editing.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yep.
And it says on page 2, MCI site redevelopment may include the adjacent known as Junketville. It will include. It says may, but it won't that is part of it. It's at least part of the master plan.
Yeah, it depends on how, I mean, the site, MCI site redevelopment is, yes.
It will include. Well, at least it was included
That's our
Yeah.
intent,
in the RFP.
but,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Anyway,
Is it
We'll consider.
expected to include?
No, I mean,
It will consider the adjacent
Yeah.
area, right?
I think it's
Okay.
included.
Yeah.
sorry, what page was that,
It's in,
Mary?
it's in
Just-
scope, it's in scope for our
Page 2.
master planning,
It
but
is, it's in
technically
scope.
what DCAM is doing, it's,
Yeah.
unless we negotiate some kind of transfer or swap or new boundaries,
Yep.
it's only May, because that's
Correct.
still our property,
I
not
see.
DCAM's
But for
property.
transportation considerations, it's
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, from a transportation perspective,
It's
it
part of
absolutely
what
should be considered. Right,
Okay.
okay. So can I take it that the board will allow me to work with Alan and his team to clean this up and send it out?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all, I appreciate it.
All
Yeah,
right,
thanks, Al.
thanks.
All right, so now Elisa's here, and Alan's not going anywhere. And we're going to talk about a couple of things that are related to each other. First, we're going to get an update on the master planning procurement, and then we're going to launch into a discussion about the governance structure for the capital plans on Article 12, which is related in the sense that this is one of the important sites that's
Yes.
targeted on Article 12. But I wanted to, and we have the, I'm skipping something. Yeah, and it was, I was not clear on exactly how to order these, but we also have a revised draft of the master plan committee charge that we started discussing in concept form last week. So I wanted to know, I wanted to get more feedback on that from you all, and had asked you to bring your, so these are a set of related topics, and why don't we start with where we stand with the master plan procurement. Lisa.
Hi,
Welcome.
Elisa Sandoval, Community Development Director. So we're very close to concluding the procurement process. As you know, Stantec was selected as the most advantageous consultant team due to their extensive master planning experience and zoning experience, and ability to show zoning that actually resulted in projects that have been implemented on the ground. They also have extensive experience in transportation planning in particular, and familiarity with Concord as well. Stantec will be partnering on the project with Spec Dempsey, an urban design and planning team, and Community Scale for their master planning and zoning components of the project. The team has expressed enthusiasm in working on the project, and we are working on the details of an executed contract with them now. Assuming a contract is executed soon, we anticipate a project kickoff in mid-April, with the project on track to complete by the end of 2026. We may split this up into 2 meetings for a kickoff, where we include a smaller kickoff meeting in early April to handle some of the administrative details and schedule for the project, and an in-person kickoff later in April with the master plan committee that will be appointed, DCAM, and a site tour. So I've included the proposal as a link in your packet, materials, and happy to answer any questions about the process or their proposal.
Okay, and I thought it might be useful to just show the high-level schedule, so I'm going to try to do that. This is directly from the proposal that we received from Stantec. And if you didn't have a chance to dig down into this link, this is really pretty useful to understand. So when we talk about the master planning process, we're talking about some project kickoff tasks that are scheduled to start as early as the first week in April, running through May. Some existing conditions reviews, that's the tours that Elisa was just talking about, and the precedence reviews, and the beginning of community engagement. Some of the things that I think are important to understand is that the public kickoff is scheduled for as early as within a couple of weeks after town meeting on this, idealized schedule. And probably the thing that is really the meat of this is this thing that they have identified as a charrette, which is this middle blue column here, with a draft illustrative plan and an opportunity for a really large-scale community engagement around what the options are. And that's as hopefully before the summer gets started is the way I think about that, with some detailed work on the feedback. And that is, according to this proposal, more or less a week-long opportunity for people to come in, engage with the planners, engage with the experts, provide their ideas, give feedback on a draft plan, and from that is going to be the heavy lifting of this team going out and trying to solve for the master plan. In the meantime, that's also halfway through this task 7, which is market feasibility and impact analysis. So it's a lot of detailed work going on there. And you'll notice also front-loaded in here is the municipal properties redevelopment assessment, which is designed to bring in some of these considerations around the public works planning. So it's very front-loaded. It's going to be it's going to feel kind of like a sprint, sort of like what happened with the vision plan last year to get this out and running, with an eye towards being able to then, begin building the regulatory package which it means the zoning, in September and tee it up for possible next year's town meeting. So not a lot of wiggle room. Pretty aggressive for what we're talking about here. Which is why why I'm sort of pushing to understand the charge. Paul.
It's very exciting, very ambitious schedule. Tell me, in the scope, how far or deeply did they get into what happens on the bulk of the site, beyond the public,
Oh, you mean like
housing piece?
the Junction Village and the other?
Well, beyond the junction housing and, I'm talking about commercial other development in the site. Is it general, is it specific? I know because the access and the zoning somehow relates to that. How deeply do they get into sort of?
They didn't get into like a super deep detail, but I think they're going to be considering like a wide mix of uses, like not just residential, but some commercial, and potentially retail. I think it just, they need to dig a little bit deeper into the community engagement and like the vision plan and what was there. I know that the vision plan had presented a few different scenarios. So what they might do and what they talked about doing is maybe coming up with a couple of different concepts and bringing them out to the public to get some feedback on which concept the public, was more supportive of. So they could kind of get a little bit more detailed drawings and dive deeper into that concept.
The reason why I've asked, I've heard from some people about interest in the site.
Yeah.
From certain developers.
Oh, part of their scope is to review up to 10 developers in the region and state to get a better understanding of what is actually developable and like marketable for the site as well. So they are taking that into consideration when they develop the illustrative plan. Mm-hmm.
And I know at least, is this the third we have the Stantec planning, Stantec engineering?
Different teams, but.
Is this a separate team or is it integrated? Because there's the transportation strategy piece.
Right.
It overlaps with part of this, so.
Yes, that's true. So there are, part of their team does include a couple of transportation planners that are working on the transportation strategy. It also includes planners that we haven't yet worked with before that are part of their urban design team. And then we have never, I don't think as a town, we have never worked with Spec Dempsey, which is a big part of their team, and they do more like urban planning and design work. So that's, they're a big partner in the effort, and they'll be running they'll be primary consultant on the charrette and the drawing and the design. So
I'm sure since you're sitting on top of a lot of this, you make sure those pieces fit together.
Oh yeah, completely.
Mary.
Thank you. I thought that their proposal is just fantastic, and I think it's the result of a great RFP, so thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I was really impressed with this. I'm interested in, they address market feasibility and fiscal impact assessment, and they talk about bringing in other municipal properties like Peabody and Ripley. They actually talk specifically about that. So I guess I'm wondering, what can we expect from that? And do you think that when we come to the town with a zoning package in November, if we believe the schedule, do you think that would also include possible zoning changes there?
Well, that's
we expect, I guess.
I guess that is more, That assessment is mostly being done under a separate contract. The actual build out and assessment, that is what Megan has been working on with a different team, a different consultant team, and what MCI, this master plan, will do will be to evaluate the work that the other consultant is doing to make sure that it's integrated into this overall MCI plan. It's not necessarily to do the assessment themselves.
No, it's actually, they're looking at the impact on services, I think.
Oh, I
Not the
see.
value of the land under different zoning scenarios, but they're actually, they talk right here about figuring out the impact on services from,
I see.
different development scenarios.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
specifically talk about municipal properties. It's on page, what is
But
it?
there's just a very small paragraph about those
Yeah, I don't think it's a
particular
bulk of
Yeah,
their
but I
work.
guess I'm wondering, what exactly can we expect from that? It's on page 8.
Well, I think, yeah, that's worth, I think, asking them a bit more about. That wasn't like a
great.
huge focus of the
That'd be great.
proposal, so
Yeah.
we can follow up when we get, to working with them and kickoff and everything like that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
just to be clear, so it's more than just the yield analysis that we're working on, but it's also the.
Yeah, it seems like that they'll be looking at like fiscal impact in the
Exactly.
broader sense, yes.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I read that too. They're going to look at the yield analysis, but I actually thought that that was great, that they were going to do some alternative analysis of the financials, so different,
Yes.
different housing combinations with retail and commerce. I thought that was really great. I thought the study was good. I had one question. The form-based zoning, that was listed as an alternative. Is that sort of a new way to do zoning? Is this, I mean, it
Yeah.
seems like it was an alternative to.
Yeah, the out alternative, we're not including in the contract right now because that was
Okay.
mostly just for a workshop to explain form-based
Okay.
code,
That
and we
wasn't-
don't know yet if that's, the direction this zoning is going to take. It may be form-based code, or it may be a hybrid of traditional zoning and form-based code. Basically, what form-based code is, instead of traditional zoning that has, it might just have like a, FAR, setbacks, building height, density, that kind of thing. What form-based code is it just basically identifies the building envelopes and like where the buildings can be placed and how their facade works and how, it's very detailed in terms of like architecturally what the pitch of the roof is and how sort of the building is laid out. So it's more of a architectural lens of looking at zoning, and it's kind of more aesthetically based.
More of a side. sort of
Yeah, it's not.
just a workshop for staff.
Yeah, it's just mostly a workshop, so we didn't know exactly what the direction of the zoning would be. It may be more of a hybrid, so, yeah.
My understanding, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that with a form-based code, though, the particular use of the building is
Oh,
de-emphasized.
correct, right.
So it doesn't, the building will look like X,
Right.
but it might be residential, or it might be commercial, or it might be something else, but it will look like
Yeah.
the form that's identified.
That's
So-
interesting.
Yes, sorry, that was a key point that I did not make.
As opposed to now, we usually say, this is a commercial district, and everything in
Right.
here is going to be a commercial building, and then as long as it dimensionally doesn't exceed one of these boundaries we've placed, then it's okay.
Okay.
Oh, that's
So-
interesting.
Yeah, it's true.
helps mass,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
visualize what
Yeah.
will be there.
Right, so you visualize what's going to be there, but what it's going to look like, but you don't necessarily know what it actually is from that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the timeline looked good. I would just suggest, on the bottom there, it's like you have this charrette in June, and then you go away and come back with a report at the end of September. I just would put in some interim checkpoints. I know it's the summer, but doesn't matter, because it just sort of looks like we're just going to go away and we're working on, hey,
Yeah.
here's the final report, now start writing some zoning. So
No, that's true.
I'm sure that's probably not the intent, but just the way it sort of maps out, just make sure there's sort of some interim checkpoints, and when you show up with a draft, it's probably going to make some further revisions before it ends up sort of being finalized.
Yeah, I will comment that part of the approach, it's a little bit different in Concord. This is sort of concentrating energy, effort, resources in a way we can hear from a majority rather than checking in every month and where are we, what's happening, and it's sort of, you have meeting, and people lose track of where we are. This is very targeted and focused, so you can get all that input, and then you go back and you can start sharing what, the experts have heard. So that is by design.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't continue to become, ongoing dialogue, because obviously DCAM's very interested in seeing redevelopment sooner rather than later, and Concord's interested in actually realizing something, not just having it be a debate.
Yeah. So, the way I tend to think about this is an engagement which is designed to converge on a solution, where the vision plan was a bit more divergent in the sense that it was looking at all the possibilities and trying to sort of create a sense of what could happen there under different scenarios. This is designed to try to incorporate the real constraints and come out with a solution that both, DCAM is interested in development, connecting back to our last conversation where we can say the access points for this master plan need to be here, here, and here, so that, for traffic circulation, so Mass DOT, please, make sure that fits into your design. And I think to Cam's point, it's designed to have some robust public engagement, but it's also, and I think the reason that we want to have at least a small citizens group responsible for working with Elisa and the team is to try to make sure that that the efficiencies and the thoroughness of that check-in and that communication has a way to get back into this while this is trying to converge on a solution.
I think we'll talk about this in the next segment, connecting,
Yeah.
but I want to talk about select board engagement in this as well. I mean, there's a lot going to be happening fast here in a period of time. I want to make sure that I don't want to have a lot of meetings, but we understand collectively what's going on and can have some input into that. I mean, not a big, we'll talk about that sort of under the charge of the committee, but I think that's really important.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to get us, this is really in the starting blocks at the moment. And so I wanted to make sure that you had a sense of what it was, that you saw the proposal, the community's seen the proposal now. I think it's exciting. I think that we have hired a firm that can really bring some sort of a solution out of this, and I think I think we've also, through the work of the land use working group, actually identified kind of what some of the town priorities are that would fit into that, potentially fit into that mix. But we're going to understand the feasibility of doing that as part of this assessment as well.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you for doing this. This is getting it from the conceptual to the actual.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting.
Very exciting.
Good. So, kind of shifting to, I guess we're gonna shift back and forth here a little bit tonight, but Mary, you had proposed something and put it in, and it's in our packet.
Yep.
That's the facilities master planning governance structure, and in its current form, and I might put this on the screen too. It incorporates the idea that we are going to have thank you very much, Kristen. So this is designed to build out a little bit more on what Article 12 might logically lead us to. If we think about the three major programs that are occurring under Article 12, there's a public safety lane, which is designed to come up with a solution for those facilities. MCI doesn't appear to be a part of that at this point.
But DPW relocation
Right.
is,
DPW does,
Public Works.
which is why it's kind of incorporated under the MCI Master Plan Committee, manages the touch points for the wastewater treatment facility and the DPW relocation. I think I would add to what you had written
Yep.
by suggesting that, that the Public Works Commission is also in the mix there, because the
Yep.
Public Works Commission does have an ongoing and detailed role with what the Public Works functions are.
Yep.
And so, as opposed to public safety, we don't really have a commission that oversees that. And so when we start talking about a building project there, we probably need to add some citizen input and oversight
Yep.
and community outreach in there. And then municipal consolidation is the framing that we've used in Article 12 and pointed to that. But really that does relate, I think, fairly closely to what you have down here as the long-term capital planning committee. In other words, looking at what can be freed up, what can be reused, what needs to be, retained for future purposes, and how do you evaluate all of those things under that? And I think that this, right now, all of this is going on at our level and at the select board level at the moment, but I think that there will be times in the future when it makes sense to create some specific, probably task forces or, building committees, which are, by definition finite, to address the larger scale of those. So I think this is a good framework to start with. I was wondering what others thought.
it's a start.
I really support this kind of framework. The name of that group on the right, Mary, long-term capital planning, doesn't speak exactly towards it.
I know.
And I don't want to get hung up
It's
on
a
the name.
catch-all, really.
Because there's
Yeah.
capital planning on the left side as well. And, these pieces somehow have to talk to each other, because in the previous, talk about master planning, we are talking about other properties in town that are related, for housing. And so that's a little bit on the right, it's a little bit in the middle. So I'm not too hung up on that. I'm not going to get hung up on the name, but it's more than long-term capital
It is.
planning.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I can't,
We can call it Mary. No, you can give it a name.
Yeah, I mean, it's a helpful
start.
construct. I mean, I think it's work that needs to get done. I think, I guess what goes through my mind is a little bit is sort of what happens already in sort of some of the town versus like creating committees
Yep.
for it and just,
Yep.
that's all. I mean, it's just sort of like,
That's a
where do we
great-
need a committee or when do
Yep.
we need a committee versus just, hey, look, yes, we're going to take these inputs, work with the planning
Yep.
group in town or whatever it is,
Yep.
right? So that's more my thing of just, the organization of it makes sense. It's just sort of, what are the right bodies of folks to get the work
Yeah,
done?
well, there's no committee in town looking at the left side that I know of, right?
Yeah.
And we
Right.
talk specifically in the middle as a discrete piece.
Well, so
The integration.
maybe it's out, like, is this
Right.
on the, does the land use group go away?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And the MCI
Is that your steering committee?
group,
Is
well,
it this
no, the one
MCI
that's
master
been in
planning?
existence.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what used to be called the steering committee. Now
Used to be the advisory, now we're evolving it. Is that our next agenda
So,
item?
well,
That's
yeah,
the-
incorporated in here, I think, is
That's the
where
master
Cameron's
plan,
taken
right.
us, which
Okay.
is the land use working group is scheduled to finish their work
Right,
at the end of May, June?
July.
July.
Early July,
Yep.
with the Phase 2, which leads to quite a few of the items on the long-term capital plan.
Right.
Well, that was almost sort of their phase 2 design, wasn't it?
Well,
Right.
we're revisiting the Phase 2. I'll come back to you probably next week with a rewrite of their charge. But it really is, how do we integrate what the subcommittees have come up with?
Right.
Because there are conflicts. What are some next steps that they recommend? Okay, and then what are some other surplus properties? We have a lot of surplus properties across Concord, and how to collect those or categorize those in a way that might be useful to to funding long-range
Right.
plans.
But I guess what I'm
That's
asking.
it, so.
No, I guess what I'm
sorry,
asking
that
is,
was a
does
long-
that committee almost
Yes.
Yeah.
continue on the first and third? Like, I'm not sure what isn't covered in the land use. If the land use committee continues, couldn't they take on the fire and building and the long-term capital planning?
There's
Or do we
different,
have
They
to
could, but they won't. I mean, they're retiring, so we
Okay.
need to,
Yeah.
we need to,
Well, that's what I'm, yeah.
Yeah, we
okay.
don't-
Some of the individuals might be involved.
yeah,
But
we,
yeah.
there are good people there, but the right-hand side, I think, is the problematic part, which is, it's kind of like a catch-all. I think we do need to do some really good planning around, what's our debt load going forward? How are we going to
Right.
fund things? What are things coming off of the debt load? What are things coming on? And that's something that the finance function, in town, to answer your question,
Yeah.
can be doing. But I think they need to inform a group of citizens regularly. That's why I put all those types of activities here. And the other thing was recommend transfers to the capital stabilization fund. So a lot of these are finance functions, if you will, around project. And then I kind of threw in, recommend the timing of municipal consolidation, which is a lot more than that. What am I saying? I'm
Mary-
saying that this is the part that I don't feel, I
Yeah.
feel
You know
this is
what?
squishy.
It
Mary,
is
I don't-
squishy, but it's also, it remains with the select board until we find a way to delegate either some or all of it.
Right. So
Yeah.
Mary, I think that this is a good structure, and I think it gives you the flexibility to advance initiatives when you need to. So while this might be a catch-all,
Yep.
you're going to work on stuff as it needs to move forward, right? And the fire police committee it's very distinct, it's very specialized. That's going to ultimately be some new committee. I don't know if it's the same or different, but a different composition of people. The one thing that as we think forward on this, one of the things that I don't know exactly where it's best situated, and I know we're going to talk about it, but it's about housing goals, right? I know we're going to have to talk about housing because the state wants us to talk about housing, and it'll be in the MCI plan, but
Yep.
as a community, we need to step back, I think, a little bit and make some statements or some goals around how much affordability, what types of housing, is it workforce housing? Do we need apartment versus ownership models? And just ask
Yep.
some of those community goals, like what do we need long-term as a community? So before we start selling property or thinking with advising MCI on
Is
how
that
we're gonna
something
treat
that
this
the new housing production plan should?
Well, so the housing
document?
production plan covers a lot of the topics, but they're very focused on building affordable housing. They touch on these topics and they say, yes, we're going to need, smaller housing units for people to live in, but the actions tend to be focused on affordable
No,
units.
that's a good point. Maybe we should bring this up at the
And
housing
maybe it's
roundtable.
housing-
Roundtable
Yeah,
next-
no, I
sure,
think that's what
next
should, but,
And say if we
Yeah.
could broaden the housing production plan to be more than affordable housing.
maybe, yeah, or just, yeah.
Or
we could do
maybe
that.
even ask the
mean-
groups with housing in their names, help us really understand where the housing needs really, where are the gaps in the housing inventory that we have now. I was noticed that one of the communities on the Cape, I've forgotten which one, it was the Outer Cape community, was at the Mass Municipal Association conference, and they were basically saying that, their housing goal was to develop housing that people who grew up in their town, I think it was Wellfleet, but I could be wrong, but it was in that general area, people who grew up in their town could aspire to continue whatever their family business was and live there. This was definitely going to be housing that wasn't going to fit into AMI targets because people who ran those kinds of businesses were not going to actually fit in as affordable, but they were setting their housing goal in terms of what it was going to do to people who, called that community their home.
Yep.
From birth. And, we sort of reframing the goal of housing in something like, in terms like that is very different than just saying, okay, mathematically, if you earn so much money, you're entitled to.
Well, and the reason for doing it is we can address some of this through zoning, but if we're going to be in a position to sell a piece of property, you're in a unique control position to
Right.
say, I want you to build that kind of housing, like affordable elderly,
Yes.
like we did with Christopher Heights or something. But
So those questions about what type of housing and the housing production plan, it's sort of, it impacts at
all of
least
it,
two of these.
no, it's all of it, right? It's
And there'll be housing representatives in here, and the
right, but
implementation, the implementation of those plans is,
right. But who's making the statement about what we need to be thinking about what the community needs going forward?
Right.
That's
Well,
my
it's
point.
I think
outside of
that's a
this.
great question.
And I
And I
don't-
think it's the Housing Roundtable.
Yeah, well,
is the
I'll
place
raise
to-
it. I'll raise it there. That's fine.
Good.
We can do it there, but
Really.
just something
And
just to
you're
think
right. I
about
think we
here.
should broaden it beyond affordable housing.
Right.
well, on the commercial development side, which is.
Yeah, no, same thing,
Which is
but-
less developed, that has to be integrated in here as well.
Right, I just know it's going to come up in MCI, and we can be MCI focused, but when we start
Yeah,
thinking about.
well, it's also going to come up with
It's
any other
everywhere,
property that we
right.
decide that
Yep.
is going to be turned over to housing, which is what the yield analysis is also
Right, yeah.
about.
Okay, so anyway,
okay.
So I think,
but I still think this is a good structure, and you don't have to have all of it all at the same time, but there's going to be pieces that'll
I
move
think,
forward.
I think what I'm hearing is that this is a good structure, and I think the building committee for fire and police were in agreement that that needs to be done. And we already have the MCI master plan committee that we're going to talk about shortly, and then the rest, we can talk about more after we get the results from the land use working group and kind of refine that later. Is that,
There's a,
I would maybe just, and,
and?
is there a, should we make sure maybe we already have to some degree, but, just almost kind of connecting with Kerry and the town team to say,
Oh, yeah.
what would be helpful to you? What would be useful? What do you need versus what were some of the things that you, might have some resources around
Yeah.
or focus on? Just, you know what I mean? 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, it's like, hey, let's figure out how to be value add, right? As opposed to, oh my gosh, somebody's now,
Yeah.
kind of,
oh,
Well, I did.
yeah.
I did run this by Carrie
Carrie,
to
okay.
begin with.
So, yeah, so you might have already,
But
you know,
not at
connected
this
on
level
some
of detail.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I
the
will.
other thing is on the public safety side, there's a set of needs analysis that kind of runs ahead of the
Unique.
building committee and a property acquisition strategy. So meaning understanding what the program requirements actually are and making decisions about, for example, we've already heard the PSAP, the public safety access point, not access point, what the dispatch function.
Yes.
Whether we
Yeah.
become a dispatch
Right.
hoster, we consume hosting of dispatch, is there an interim plan in that? So there's a bunch of things that happen to help before you actually get down to a building committee
Yep.
level that probably need to be done.
Just how
Ahead
we-
of that.
Again,
Yeah,
same kind of thing.
This is creating
Sequence.
more clarity on
Yeah.
how to move
Yeah.
forward. That's
Right.
really beneficial.
yeah. And so,
I like clarity.
so moving to the actions that we probably want to take, Mary's already mentioned that she's preparing an update for the land use working group charge, and they're still working. The MCI advisory board has really been in a stand-down mode since last fall, as we developed this RFP, and I think that you can see, this is almost moving into the master plan committee charge.
Right.
I feel like there are some specific parts of what was, skills that came out of that would be good carryover for continuity, particularly the public engagement team was very strong there, and I think we want to try and engage them for continuity into the master plan committee. Also, the land use team had some good resources on it. I think there are other members of that board who might very helpfully cycle into some of these new roles that we're defining, but I don't think that the MCI advisory board, as it was originally drafted, really needs to continue, and so we may want to just thank them
Thanks.
and disband that group would be my recommendation here ahead of or concurrently with creating the master plan committee.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Agreed.
Definitely,
Does
I
that
think
mean,
it's
though,
time.
that we thank them and have them come give any sort of, I just want to.
We certainly
sure
could.
But they did
we-
come.
I just want to make sure we
Yeah.
appreciate all the work they did.
Right,
Yeah, we did. It's a little bit unfortunate the way that's worked out to be such a gap, but I think that it is important to communicate how
Yeah.
how grateful we are.
Have the MCI advisory and the land use group come
Yeah, I just want to
together.
make sure, that's all.
Together.
Just want to make, that's
fine.
right, that's great.
We're-
Just want to
We're
make sure.
sunsetting
we're-
that group, too.
Yeah.
That's a good,
some point.
that's, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yep,
So do you want to talk about your committee charge?
Yeah.
yeah, I do.
good.
So I just have one comment, Mark, which is, well, thank you for putting it together. I think it looks good. On the membership,
Yeah.
my comment would be to be more general on who this almost seems like we have to put one person from this and one from that and one from that. And while that may end up being that we draw on that expertise, wonderful, but I think I would be more general on sort of like, hey, how big's the committee? And, these are the types of,
Skills.
skills and experiences we might be looking for.
That's kind of
As
how I
opposed
look
to
at
trying to
it,
pinpoint,
Yeah.
because you might get a housing person who's also was on the land use group, or you might get something this, or, there could be a mix. There could be, hey, and maybe it makes sense to bring in a new person.
Yeah.
So just being a little less prescriptive there.
The framing is membership consists of 4 to 6 Concord residents and 1 voting select board member or designee appointed by the select board who collectively have these experiences. And that could be embodied in multiple people. The main change in this area was I definitely realized that, I think commercial real estate development was overlooked in the previous version of this.
Yep.
I think there's an expectation and a desire to see at least a portion of the MCI site become commercially developed, and so experiencing that would be useful. And certainly someone who has their eye on how the planning board is going to be able to pick up and work with the regulatory package would be kind of key too. I'd still love to try and find 5 people rather than 7, but, it's hard to get this much, horsepower into that few number of people.
Mark, can I just add one
Sure.
comment? I've found in the past it's been very helpful when boards or committees that are, literally have skin in the game, are going to be involved, have a representative there so they can speak to their boards and committees on behalf of their tracking it. This is the update that they think is relevant to that particular board or committee. So it's always good because they become sort of a working extension into the respective committees. For instance, Public Works. It's better to have a fellow Public Works commissioner speak to progress than staff speaking to the progress, for instance.
I have a skin in the game question first, and that's West Concord involvement somehow, West Concord Advisory. I don't know how to frame that. I'd want to make sure that there's somebody who is
That's-
very much focused on West, because it's
I think
very
there's a
impactful.
liaison role here, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a liaison.
Yeah, it could be, could be
Because you're
that.
really focused on
Maybe we
voting
should have
members
other
and
liaison.
decisions, right?
Isn't
The
it?
one-
I thought you
Yeah.
wrote that
So I
explicitly.
telegraphed this comment earlier, so
Up
I think
above.
your duties are fine, and I like number 8, but I would, I think it's really important to have monthly briefings from the chair, no more than that in the select board. Since we're on top of this, I really, there's so much going on, quite honestly, over the last year, I've kind of gotten lost on where we are and have tried to catch up on where we are. I'd find it very helpful. If the chair would just,
updates. Yeah.
a standing
number
agenda
8.
once a month.
Number 8.
So number 8 would be monthly.
But monthly briefings, no
Briefings.
informal briefings,
Yes.
just what's going on.
Yeah.
I
I mean, this is
like
one of those where, we often spin up these committees without anybody from the select board actually on them. And this is one of those cases where I feel pretty strongly that that would not be a good idea. I think there should be one and only one select board member on it. I'm not sure that, I think that it's somewhat awkward when we put more than one
I agree.
member on
I
on the board.
agree, and I'm fine with that, as long as,
So,
Bad
for-
idea.
but
as long as I think we know what's
where
going on.
that's where the tight connection, it's Alan's exact point, skin in the game, that person from this board will essentially be responsible for providing updates in every week.
Yeah.
Michael?
Should there also be input from the school committees, or at least the liaison?
Can you say that again?
Yeah, so Michael's comment was, Michael Williams, member of the school committee, wanted to know whether we think there should be input from or a liaison to the school committee. And we didn't do that with the MCI advisory board, but I can see the logic in it.
Well, one of the things I should also, when I read in the report, one of the things they're going to analyze is the impact on the schools. So there's definitely going to be a much more detailed analysis on that. So I thought that was really helpful.
So you're okay with these monthly briefings, no matter who gives them, could be the select board rep,
Right,
the
and
chair?
It should
That's
be
what I
whoever
was-
the representative is.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this might even be,
Be the
it
chair.
crossed my mind that the select board person could actually be defined as the chair of this committee too, which is, it doesn't have to be, but
Right, it doesn't have to be.
it might be.
Mark, I had two questions on this. Most of these I see are representing the master plan elements. That number 6 is evaluate if short and long-term zoning methods are available. I wasn't sure why
Oh,
that was
okay.
there. Or are you just trying to, I know we have to
Yeah.
deliver on zoning, but what did that?
That came out of one of the things that was in I believe it was in the advisory. I took a look at the advisory board charge and the land use working group charge as I was developing this one to try and make sure that it had some heritage from both. But this specifically was intended, in my mind at least, to reference the notion that MCI will be developed over time. What it looks like in 5 years is going to be very different than what it looks like in 15 years. And so it is possible that one of the solutions is that there is some kind of temporary zoning or, for example, there's an area on the northern side which is highly likely to be impacted by a Route 2 Rotary redesign project and may not be available for any kind of reuse for a decade or more while Route 2 is done. There's a real possibility that Route 2 actually shifts into the front yard and some acreage is lost in that. That's one of the reasons why in the letter that we were just talking about, the land impact, I forget how it's phrased exactly, but how much land are you taking to do this project? Because if it all ends up kind of green and being mowed in between lanes of a superhighway, it's not very useful for us.
It's ultimately a zoning strategy, right? I mean, this committee is going to be
Yeah.
done in a year, well, year and
Right.
a half, right? So you're just going to identify that there's some phase zoning if it's needed, right?
Yeah,
That's what you meant.
that would be about trying to, whether or not there's some kind of what's called phasing in the zoning plan. And if not, there isn't, but
Okay.
it's just opening the door for the possibility that that could occur.
Okay.
And then the other thing I would add is TAC as a liaison, potentially, in your list of liaison
Where's the
groups.
liaison section?
I'm sorry, but how big is the committee end
No,
up being?
this is logistics. No,
Liaisons.
we've identified, the committee will have liaisons to the Public Works Commission, which we'll get to in a minute, Planning Board and Historic Commission. But I actually think.
Where is that, Wendy?
This is on the top of
Top of-
page
What are the
Page.
liaisons doing?
3.
Of
They're
the-
showing up
They
at
just
the
show up
meeting.
to
Just a
meetings so they
reference.
can
Oh,
go
sorry,
back, they
it's
can
not up
report.
there.
I think
Yeah.
TAC, West Concord Advisory, they have
TAC is still
Right
landing,
above
right?
membership.
TAC is still, we're working with TAC to get them to have an understanding of their
Maybe.
role. I mean, this is
Oh, the
something I
committee will
know
liaise.
Elisa's been, when the
Liaise.
select board has been
Liaise.
trying to,
Yeah, they're working
Yeah.
on the charge.
working on
I
the
know.
chart.
I'm
So I
just-
just,
So why do we have the
caution,
planning board?
expanding that,
I'm going to come back to
Yeah.
that.
this phase,
Yeah.
that's all.
In that,
So I guess.
But the liaison is just, it's getting information back to the
So I
committee.
guess where I'm going with that is going to your membership, because to your membership options, I think someone from the Public Works Commission should be on the board. So we talk about land use group or Public Works Commission. And maybe this is to your point earlier about
Yeah.
being prescriptive or not. I think someone from the Public Works Commission should be on here.
And if if I'm fair about this too, when I think about how I edited it, I didn't go back and take out of the logistics section things that were refined when I created the membership section. So there may be some redundancy in there that should be, Megan, did you have
maybe
something
you're
you
right
wanted to
there.
say?
Okay, I think
do.
the membership should be tight and, because it's fast. It's gonna,
Right.
this is a fast-moving thing, so the membership should be as small as
possible.
And the liaison role
That's
is a way to invite people to the meetings so that they can go report back
Right.
without being, having to do a lot of the heavy lifting in the actual membership.
Yep.
Yeah, Megan.
Sure, thank you. Apologies I didn't get any comments to you before this evening, but I think one of the things I'm thinking about is how the players are going to all integrate together, because this is coming together a little bit different than some of our previous task forces or efforts. We have a consultant on board. We have staff dedicated to it. We have the state as a kind of owner, and now this committee. And so I think that this charge could kind of spell, and I think it does to an extent kind of spell out some of the tasks that this committee will be responsible for, kind of supporting the effort, supporting the master planning effort by focusing on public outreach and to kind of being a liaison with the transportation preferences. But I just am thinking about when we all sit at the table when the first meeting is, and what everyone's roles and responsibilities are, and maybe clarifying how this committee will be working with the consultant, because it is going to be different, from my understanding, than how the vision was. That group kind of worked to help hire the consultant, and this is, the charge is written, the scope is written, the contract signed. We have a group that is being managed, by staff with input, critical input from the community, but how is that landing, and just like clarifying like this supervisory structure, or just like how the input is all these pieces are working together. I think some clarity around that will save us down the road.
That's a good point.
That is a good point. So I would refer back to the first three duties are perform community outreach and learn the preferences of Concord residents among the master plan alternatives and zoning regimes. So it's not develop those things. It's like really help the community understand what's going on and help to solicit their preferences. Hold at least 2 public forums to submit community input and ideas, and now those are written into the contract. So, and work with the town manager and senior staff to highlight municipal needs, opportunities, and concerns. So making sure that those.
Yeah.
But
I view this as an advisory group. I mean, we have somebody managing it. This is not a management group per se.
Yeah.
It's an advisory group of people who have stakes and knowledge from the town point of view. So it's
right.
Yeah.
And to the extent that this group interacts with Mass DOT, number 5 is promote efforts to determine the town's preferences for Route 2. That's what was in that letter.
Right.
And local traffic circulation as pertains to the MCI site. So really, again, try and keep a finger on the pulse of those things.
Right.
And we've heard this, and it came up at the Finance Committee last week when I was talking about Article 12 and saying that this is building on the Land Use Working Group. The Land Use Working Group did a lot of things really, really well, and one of the things we didn't actually ask them to do, and they did not do, was spend a lot of time communicating with the general public about what they were boiling down in order to get to the answer, get to the recommendations that they got to.
Right.
So this group is meant to kind of make sure that doesn't happen in the specifics of the MCI master plan. And, going back to somewhat linking to our last discussion, we need to make sure that as these other pieces come together around these other programs, that there is a lot of community dialogue. I'm currently writing the supplemental materials for Article 12 and for the briefing book, and I literally wrote in there a commitment that this is going to, that community engagement is going to be taking
Good.
place, which is part of that. And I
Mark, as
think
part of that
important.
Article 12, you mentioned that the select, when we asked about governance, you mentioned the select board would sort of govern the spending. How do you see that rolling out? Do you see us defining tasks? Or how do you see that rolling out? Or maybe you haven't thought totally about it yet, but.
Are we back on this, or are we going on a different topic?
Excuse me?
Are we back on the
Well, I
committee
think
charge, or are we on
this is a form of that. I think what we're really trying, and, the suggestion that maybe this is a group, it is a liaison group that can be used as a sounding board by the consultant and the staff team to understand the town's interests, but doesn't actually function as a committee itself. That's one of the options on the table. I mean, we could ask the project team to simply identify a liaison from the Public Works Commission, from the Planning Board, assign a select board liaison, and we don't have to have a committee at all, if we're comfortable that the contractor is going to get that. I think the primary purpose of this is to have citizens really watching that, make sure that the public engagement is actually happening, and calling a ball if for some reason what's coming out of that project misses the mark in terms of getting citizens really informed about this, because we don't want to get all the way up to here's the final plan and people are saying, I don't know anything about this.
But I mean, to Megan's point, it is a thought.
Yeah.
There are people, okay, just have them come, make sure we have it on the select board agenda to get some
We could do that.
reasonably frequent updates and, connections back into the right, the right parts of the.
I mean, big pieces of this are going to happen in the 6 or 8 select board meetings right after this town meeting.
Right, and with the consultants and.
But, Cameron, I think we need some continuity between what was done before and what goes forward, and so that, this committee and the membership speaks of continuity to some extent.
Yeah, Mark, I like the sounding board is a
Advisory
concept for
sounding
public
board.
works that works very well. The staff does a lot of work. They're there to make sure that, if we have questions, they offer perspectives.
Yeah.
They're sort of, the bookends to make sure, we're not going sideways, and it's rational, reasonable thinking, and having representation from people who are aware of the interests that have already been identified, but just make sure that, are you
Right.
paying attention to that? And that's the support staff really values, rather than formal meetings, with the select board and a formal meeting with Public Works, just having the voice and representation at the table for guidance and, listening to our concepts and.
But it focuses the scope. They do.
Megan, do you think that the 7 people that we've listed here on the membership
Skills, yeah.
is the right number of people or not to do what you reminded us is the role of this committee relative to the fact that we have staff and consultants, that have momentum, that have clear direction? Because I'm thinking this is too many.
Could be smaller.
Well, I kind of think we're going to need a targeted group of people to work on this, but this is going to have to be everyone's job for it to be successful, right? Like, it's going to need to be, this is one of the major goals for the town over the next couple of years. And so, people can't be waiting for, a knock at the door to contribute and bring their ideas. Like, it's going to need all of, chairs breakfast, all of the people that you appoint and the town manager appoint to tune in and participate and contribute. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I think that, entrusting a certain group is a critical group, especially, I think, as Mark pointed out, the first 3 tasks are,
Outreach, yeah.
or I
Like
think stand out
engagement,
above. I think there's other ones in there too, but I think that it is going to have to be, as a goal from this committee, saying all the people I'm appointing, all these boards that you appoint, this is something we're all working on together as a town.
Yeah, but do we need this to do it, or is there other forms like the chair's breakfast, like the select board meetings? I mean, I'm thinking we should condense this.
Just to that point, if the consultants are going to hold public forums.
Right, yeah.
And then we're going to have a different committee that has public forum. It just feels like it.
But let's get back to the advisory group concept. I do think that having housing, commercial development,
Yeah.
MC, I see maybe it could be 5 people instead of 7.
Yeah, I think getting it down to 5.
I do see
Okay, so
that
let's
as an
let's
advisory,
work on that.
So housing.
advisory team that doesn't get in the way of progress, but
Yes.
helps progress. I don't see any downside of this. Maybe the size is too big, we got to think of that, but I see the need for this.
Yeah,
Could you
I
get it
wasn't
down to
trying to
5?
say a committee isn't needed.
No, I didn't
no,
think
no,
so.
I
I
think
was,
we're just-
I was asking you about the number of people, not whether we needed a
I
committee.
think 5 sounds about right.
Yeah,
Right.
I think so too.
And, and I know it's, as Mark had mentioned, drawing from some of the skill set that's already
Yeah.
been
Yes.
established. You have some institutional knowledge
Yeah.
Yep.
from
Agree.
each of these, groups that I know. Planning is a huge player. We're talking about zoning ultimately.
Right.
Public Works will have a lot of interest because it's a potential public works, facility. If it isn't, at least they've had a chance to sort of understand that.
Housing.
The land use working group, is, and the advisory board, the MCI advisory board, are 2 other entities that have been plugged in, and as well as we have housing and select board.
So I would remove the housing and the commercial real estate development and get it down to 5. I propose that.
Why would you remove housing? It's the
Because I need
ones-
to get it down to 5.
I would
No,
remove
no, I know,
the-
but housing's one of the more
Another way to
critical
go
pieces here.
is to say,
Yeah.
we're going to put somebody in charge of this, whoever it is, and, we want people who have the following types of experience and skills.
Just,
I think, I just find it very hard to sort of say, okay, it has to be
It's pretty,
exactly this person, this type of, this person.
We
it's
need
for residents and
continuity.
these
We're
are
going
the,
with
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm
continuity.
just saying, like, it has the following types of experience and skills, and it
but
has
it's
these.
pretty easy for me to take a look at this list and come up with people that have already been engaged in
Yeah.
in
Yeah, of
MCI
course.
that are going to be able to hit the ground running as fast as we kind of need them to hit the ground running. Assuming that we get yeses in the answer, the bench is pretty good for this. I could probably think of 2 people for each of these roles. And then we'd have some choice.
Yep.
I'd like to think that if we decided to try to do that, we would be having a discussion about exactly who in the next meeting or 2, so that by the time town meeting is going, we're ready to do that. And that's roughly about I don't know if we have an actual kickoff date yet, Elisa, or?
Yeah, it would probably be in mid to late April for the big
Yeah.
kickoff in
So we-
in person.
Yeah, so if we were able to do,
gonna
get
do
some names by the
nominations next
13th. they would
Okay,
at
so
least
then
know
and
that-
if-
appointments on the 30th.
Could we work on maybe getting it down for a minute and see if we get anywhere with that? Getting it down to 5, or do we not want to do that? We don't want to do that?
I don't want to do it. I don't
You don't
want
want
to do
to
it.
do it?
I just think, to me, the charter gives yourself the flexibility.
Yeah, it
Say that
says-
the
it
committee will
says-
liaison with other committees as needed, and the membership will have the following types of experience
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
skills.
And-
It then gives somebody the ability to say, okay, who do I?
Right.
But do we
And
want 5 or
I
6?
did-
Yeah.
Maybe
did
one
say
person has
Yeah.
4 to
Choose those
6
skills.
representatives and a voting select board member or designee. So that, if we came up with 5 names that we were satisfied basically covered these spaces, then we'd be good.
Yeah.
We would.
And if we,
Yes.
We would.
if we-
Okay.
Yes.
okay.
Good.
So just retain
So
that.
these are the bases.
These are the bases that we're trying to cover.
We need 5 people
These
that can
types
cover
of-
7 bases.
These types
Right.
of skills, these types of.
Yeah,
Sounds like
kind of like the power
a baseball
play.
game.
We can do that.
This is the power play team. Penalty killers.
Penalty killers.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, good.
So did anybody else have any specific edits they wanted to offer, or are we?
I would just relook at that the public forums as they might decide, but
Well,
as a
how about in
charge.
conjunction with the RFP?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Why,
Right.
these are in addition?
Yeah,
No, I was always thinking that they were
Or support,
essentially
yeah.
overlapping this.
Okay,
Or
good.
you could say
Then-
support public
Yeah.
forums to
Yeah,
solicit
good,
community
good. Yeah,
ideas
you're
or
not
something like
gonna
that.
post them.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
good.
being more.
I think Michael has a question, so I'm going to take it. Just find a microphone.
Michael Williams, member of the school committee, but speaking for myself. And at some point, the output of this body, if it's advisory, the schools are going to have some concept of what's going on, both in terms of looking at the capacity the schools has and how the planning is going to affect specifically development, how it could affect what's going to be happening with the schools. So at some point, either as a liaison, the school committee and administration is going to have to get some information. That's all I would ask for this body to consider.
Mhm.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, and I think I've made this point before when we were talking about the advisory board, but in the school committee, I realize is a special case, but any committee can create a liaison assignment for one of their members to go to public meetings and participate with the body, and it's certainly been the practice that if a committee identifies a liaison to the chair of that whatever committee they're trying to participate in, that chair will do that person the courtesy of making sure that they get materials distributed and so forth. But I think that the point's well taken. I do think there's something that probably ought to be written in about the school committee. So
So are you going to
So,
make some
Mark, yeah.
edits and
I'm going to propose a final draft for
Next Monday?
for April 6th.
Great.
Okay.
And I think I've gotten enough input, and now we have,
Will you also come up with
Thanks.
some ideas of people, like I mean, it seems like there's a time crunch here. We only have 2 meetings.
yes,
If we have to form this committee.
yeah, we would have to,
Nomination and
Well, we'd have
appointments,
to-
we need 2 meetings
we
to get
we
that
might need to
done.
do some nominating.
Right.
Okay.
Do you want some suggestion?
not
Not
now?
now, but I mean,
But at our next meeting, we, in
Yeah, I
theory, you'd
think-
want to have nominations, right?
Yeah, I think we can, I'll look at that. I think we could have a discussion about nominations and maybe a proposed set of nominees.
I do
Okay.
think you need some continuity, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I
right,
think also-
Okay,
Okay.
okay. Last but, well, almost last.
almost left.
Yeah.
So we had committed in our response to the open meeting law complaints to draft an addendum for the, and I wanted to clarify the purpose of the addendum. And this, I'm going to explain my thinking and see whether it matches yours. The gist of what we were of the complaints in total was that there was a level of potential deliberation going on outside of the meeting and in advance of the discussions, or almost in concurrent, almost leading right up to the discussion that we had on January 27th. And so the intent of the addendum is not to modify the minutes of the meeting as it took place. That was a public meeting, there was a recording, those are minutes that reflect what was said and done in that meeting. This is to provide a public record of those things that took place outside of the meeting that may have had some bearing or provided some additional context. I recognize that certainly not all members were involved in every one of these communications, but there were some communications which either serially or I think it was in all cases serially did at least reach a quorum of the member that could have been considered outside the meeting deliberation. So the intent of this addendum is to actually document that in a way that someone who was trying to understand the context of what took place could review that and say, okay, these are the things that had happened in advance. And so I developed a list of items to be included in that, including the complaints as we receive them. The response that we issued to that complaint, and the materials that were relevant to that response, which included the, Siri, I don't want to talk to you really, which included the initial draft of the proclamation as it was originally distributed as a result of the work that Cam and Carrie did, the comments back to those drafts, and then the alternative proclamation that was not drafted by me. I know that sometimes people attribute it to me, but which I received but did ask for it to be distributed, and the various dialogues that went around that. So my first question to you is there, I know you've had a chance to review this, is there anything that you feel has been omitted from this 91 pages of materials that's now posted that you would like, that you feel needs to be in the addendum or should be in the addendum?
I assume it all ties to, because people had issued a records request.
Yes.
So I assume it all, I mean, I didn't try to match,
Yeah.
or I probably didn't see what the result of that was. I assume it matches whatever that records request
Right.
was.
A question, is the original draft that Carrie and Cameron draft, is that in here? Because I know that the edits were, just mine were like a few words, but are those two in there?
Yes. So my understanding is that page 17, I think that is it. It's a little confusing because there's emails with attachments and there's multiple attachments done in multiple
It's the whole
times.
email thread, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the whole email thread, but,
Page 7.
so the
Oh, the edit, I think it's page 19, actually, in the PDF. You talk about the email with the edit?
on page 17, there's something that starts out Commonwealth of Massachusetts Town of Concord Select Board Proclamation. That version, I believe, is the original one that was distributed. And then beginning on 19 is an email that responds to that version
Yeah. Right.
and proposes some changes in language in that.
Right.
And then there's some emails that, so we tried to do it in more or less chronological
I mean,
order.
Honestly, Mark, it's all public record.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, the only thing I think really needs to be, in the cover sheet where it says draft proclamations, there's initial draft and then there's a final draft.
Right.
Then there's an alternative version that was
Yes.
submitted by Professor. I don't want the public to confuse that as that was our draft.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that probably needs to be corrected. There are drafts and then there's an alternative version.
So you're talking about basically the cover sheet that was in our packet.
Right, because all the red
Yeah.
line versions in there, which is on pages, the three versions of the alternative draft.
Mm-hmm.
Pages 35, 36, 45, 46, 48, 49, those are all
Okay.
Dr. Edelman's alternative draft. They're not our draft, alternative version. They're not our draft. So that needs to be differentiated,
Okay.
lest the public think that those were our drafts.
Yeah. So what I would propose to do here is, and I'm certainly open to taking more feedback, but is to create a cover letter, create a cover sheet that would go in front of all of this, which, describes what I just said is the contents of it. And then we would, at our next meeting, actually vote to amend the minutes of the January 27th meeting to add this addendum with that explanatory page at the beginning of it. and it would look very similar to what we have on this addenda, but I do take that. I think that makes some sense. I think that some of the confusion can be dealt with by, in certain cases, like original draft can be pointed at as on page 17 or something like that, so that people.
It'd be helpful to identify the various drafts and.
Certainly, every time we get a little further away from this, it makes less sense. I mean, it's less easy to just.
It sounds like TDM, but we really need to get this right, so when the public views this 2 years from now, they know it's what actually happened.
Yeah, okay.
Paul, will you send me how you're editing this list, the words?
Well, I think I just gave it the information to Mark. I mean,
Yeah.
the original draft is revised draft, then there are
create that.
alternative versions.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Any other comments or questions or concerns about how this has come together so far?
Nope, it's all there.
Okay. Anybody have any comments for liaison reports?
I have one comment. I went to the ribbon cutting for a new shop here in downtown Concord Center on Tuesday morning, I think, gathering together. And it was a great little shop, and her comments said that she had been very welcomed and was very happy to be in Concord. And I know that's not the experience of all people that try to do business in Concord, but her experience was very positive. So I want us to be aware of that.
Good.
Great.
What's the shop?
Gathering together.
What are they?
It's a craft shop, plus they have, things for parties and little classes for kids or people who want to get together and have a party making crafts. It's a community building, really, center, and
Great.
so.
I just have a transportation advisory tidbit. So in the continuing saga, and I've mentioned this a lot about integrating roadway safety projects with roadway paving projects. TAC has begun to look at each individual project, and at tomorrow's meeting, they're going to look at the entire set of suggestions and requests, the 170, and have a discussion about prioritization of those to feed into the paving project. So that process is moving along.
Is there some kind of heat map of that?
Yes, there is. Stantec produced a heat map of that, I
Good.
believe.
That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's a good
How many
question.
are there, 173 or something?
Started out at 170, then there were redundant projects, and then there were
Okay.
projects that were closed out, and so they're really prioritizing less than 170.
Wow.
Okay.
And they all can't be done. It's,
Right, no, I understand.
what can be done with existing funds this season,
Yep.
following the paving projects, so.
Good.
Aligned with them. All right.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor, get up and leave the
Aye.
room.